Faculty of Economics and Business, Universitas 11 Maret, has established its vision to be a leading school of economics and business at the national level and recognized at the international level. FEB-UNS currently has 7 degree programs consisting of 3 bachelor undergraduate programs, 3 master programs, and 1 doctoral program. All programs have been accredited A, Excellent, by the National Accreditation Board.
Faculty of Economics and Business, Universitas 11 Maret has established its vision to be a leading school of economic and business in Indonesia and internationally recognized by delivering high-quality teaching, excellent research, and community empowerment.
FEB-UNS is a member of the AACSB, Association to Advance Collegiate School of Business. The Master of Management program of FEB-UNS has been accredited by ABES 21, the Alliance on Business Education and Scholarship for Tomorrow, since 2016, while the undergraduate program in Management and the undergraduate program in Development Economics have been certified by the ASEAN University Network Quality Assurance since 2018 and 2019, respectively. Research outputs of FEB-UNS have been among the top 5 in Indonesia. A number of articles written by academic staff have been published in prestigious top-tier journals. Moreover, FEB-UNS has been appointed and granted by several governmental institutions such as Bank Indonesia, Indonesia Financial Services Authority (OJK), and Indonesia Deposit Insurance Corporation, as well as international organizations such as World Bank and USAID to perform research collaborations.
The Faculty of Economic and Business is supported by qualified academic staff with more than 45% hold a doctoral degree. The curriculum is assigned with demand of job market. FEB also participates in Campus Merdeka.
FEB-UNS also plays a role in community development through several activities, including community assistance, training and consultancy for micro and small enterprises, rural development, and many others. Students' participation in scientific, art, and sport competitions, both at the national and international level, is also strongly encouraged. Students also have opportunities to intern in corporations, governmental institutions, or non-governmental organizations. There are also opportunities for students to participate in international mobility programs. To accelerate the quality of education and research, FEB-UNS has developed mutual partnership with a number of reputable overseas universities and institutions. Under the current dynamic circumstances, FEB-UNS is also kindly offering some programs for the Independent Learning Initiative, Campus Merdeka, such as student exchange, both domestic and international, research, internship, entrepreneurship, humanity project, and rural development.
We concerned about university good governance to support division to be an international recognized school on business and economics. This campus is also equipped with complete supporting facilities for students and staff.
The physical, social, and psychological environment of FEB-UNS is well built with adequate infrastructure and based on environmentally friendly principles. Wireless internet connection is available throughout the entire campus, and students and staff can access it. The faculty also provides several laboratories, including a computer lab, mini bank lab, export-import lab, Sharia banking lab, Grameen Bank lab, and investment gallery to support students' learning and research. During the COVID-19 pandemic, FEB-UNS has kept the education delivered to students at a high level by transforming to a systematic and standardized online teaching and learning system.
Our alumni has occupied top management position at the national level in the governmental institution, state-owned enterprises and private firms. Moreover, students are also provided with many opportunities for development, including student organizations, student competition, internship, international mobility, and many others.
FEBUNS graduates have been recognized at the national level, and its alumni have occupied top positions in corporate and governmental agencies. Among them are Wimbo Santoso, who is currently the chairman of the Indonesia Financial Services Authority, OJK. Doni P. Juwono is the deputy governor of Bank Indonesia, the central bank of Indonesia. Didik Hartantyo is the president director of PT KAI, the Indonesian Railways Company. Haryanto is the owner of Dimension Footwear Group, which owns 2 reputable footwear brands in Indonesia with more than 30,000 employees.
Ladies and gentlemen, to begin this event, please be in a proper manner. May I request all of you in this room to stand up, because we would like to invite you to sing our national anthem, Indonesia Raya. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. May peace be upon you all. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 2021 11 Maret International Conference on Islamic Economic and Call for Paper, Islamic Finance, Gender Diversity, and Young Generation. It's an honor for me to welcome the Honorable Vice President of Republic Indonesia, Mr. Kiai Haji Ma'ruf Amin, the Dean of Faculty of Economic and Business 11 Maret University, Profesor Joko Suharjanto, Profesor Dr. Muhammad Kabir Hasan from University of New Orleans, United States, Profesor Dr. Iza Mafruah from 11 Maret University, Indonesia, Dr. Aizat Muniza from INSIF, Malaysia, Muhammad Arif Roshid Hasan from Independent Commissioner, Bank Syariah Indonesia, and also all participants in today's event. I'm Rehanaska and we are glad to be in the host for this outstanding event. Ladies and gentlemen, to open this session, now I would like to invite you to welcome the Dean of Faculty of Economic and Business 11 Maret University to deliver the welcoming speech. For Professor Joko Suharjanto, the stage is yours.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. With all of my respects, the Vice President of the Republik Indonesia, Bapak Kiai Haji Ma'ruf Amin, Profesor Kabir Hasan, Profesor Isa Marfuah, Dr. Asad Mudisya, and Mr. Arif Rashid Hasan, and all participants of the 2021 11 Maret International Conference of Islamic Economics. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. This conference was motivated by the extraordinary Islamic economic potential in Indonesia. Since 2020, all countries in the world, including Indonesia, have experienced extraordinary economic challenge due to the COVID-19 pandemic. This crisis that hit the economy in the early 2020 continued to spread out to various sectors, especially the economics, and this forced countries to continue to optimize their economic potential. As a country with the largest Muslim population in the world, Indonesia has high hope for the Islamic economy as a potential for the economic growth. In addition, with the relatively large spread of the Muslim population in the various provinces, and also partnership with several institutions such as Islamic boarding school, pesantren, small medium enterprise, and the halal industry in Indonesia, it also has the potential to increase the development of financial inclusion. In the May 2021, Indonesian total economic financial assets, including Sharia share, reached 1,885 trillion as of June 2021. This value increased 4.6% from the total asset at the end of 2020. The Islamic banking industry during the pandemic has experienced positive growth in the both financial commercial banks, Sharia business unit, and Islamic rural banks. This shows that under any condition, the Islamic economy will have a great prospect in the future. Moreover, the high demand for halal industry products and services indicates that some efforts are needed to increase the production of the halal industry as well as the Sharia economy in general, which ultimately requires the support of the Sharia financial sector. The term of market share of Sharia economic financing, there is still a gap between the need of Sharia business actor in the real sector and the available Sharia financial capacity. Currently, according to Bank Indonesia, there is still around 97% share of Sharia product and services produced by the domestic economy far exceeding the share of Sharia financial to total economic financing. Therefore, in the future, Indonesia can become a country with advanced economy and finance. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Prof. Joko Suharjanto, for the wonderful remarks. Okay, moving to the next agenda. This is a special station for today because I would like to welcome the Vice President of the Republic Indonesia to deliver a keynote speech. So for Kiai Haji Ma'ruf Amin, the stage is yours.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera bagi kita semua. Bismillah, walhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa alihi wa sahbihi wa muwala. Yang saya hormati Profesor Joko Suharjanto, Dekan Fakultas Ekonomi dan Bisnis Universitas 11 Maret, Profesor M. Kabir Hassan, University of New Orleans, Amerika Serikat, Profesor Azza Mafruha, Wakil Dekan Fakultas Ekonomi dan Bisnis Universitas 11 Maret, Dr. Aisat Muneza, INSAFE Malaysia Sharia Advisory Council, para undangan dan hadirin yang berbahagia. Pertama-tama, malah kita panjatkan puji syukur kehadirat Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, Tuhan yang Maha Esa atas segala limpahan rahmat dan kasih sayangnya kepada kita semua sehingga kita dapat menghadiri acara yang penting ini. Berbicara tentang ekonomi syariah tidak terlepas dari beberapa sektor kunci, yaitu keuangan syariah, industri makanan dan minuman halal, kosmetik halal, obat-obatan halal, travel ramah muslim, fashion muslim, serta media dan rekreasi bertema Islam. Kita bersyukur karena sektor-sektor tersebut berkembang secara signifikan di dalam negeri. Salah satunya karena kita memiliki pasar muslim terbesar di dunia. Potensi Indonesia untuk menjadi kekuatan ekonomi dan keuangan syariah dunia sangat besar, bukan hanya sebagai konsumen, tapi juga sebagai produsen. Terlebih setelah pandemi COVID-19 menghantam ekonomi dunia, kita makin menyadari bahwa sektor ekonomi syariah harus kita optimalkan sebagai mesin pertumbuhan baru yang mendukung perekonomian nasional. Mengutip Presiden Joko Widodo, potensi Indonesia di bidang ekonomi dan keuangan syariah bagaikan raksasa tidur yang sudah saatnya kita bangunkan untuk berkontribusi dalam upaya kita mewujudkan cita-cita menjadi negara maju tahun 2045. Hadirin yang berbahagia, peluang di tingkat global turut mendukung visi Indonesia untuk membangkitkan ekonomi dan keuangan syariah nasional. Pasar muslim di seluruh dunia mencakup lebih dari 2 miliar populasi dan diprediksi akan terus bertumbuh. State of the Global Islamic Economy Report 2020-2021 memperkirakan belanja muslim di dunia pada sektor ekonomi syariah mencapai 2,02 triliun US dollar pada 2019. Jumlah tersebut menunjukkan peningkatan 3,2% dari tahun 2018. Meskipun mengalami penurunan pada tahun 2020 akibat pandemi, pada tahun 2024 belanja muslim dunia diperkirakan akan mencapai 2,4 triliun US dollar. Menyadari potensi yang dimiliki didukung data-data terkait peluang, pemerintah berkomitmen untuk menjadikan Indonesia sebagai pemain kunci di bidang ekonomi dan keuangan syariah dunia. bukan hanya sebagai konsumen, melainkan juga sebagai produsen. Komitmen tersebut telah diwujudkan ke dalam berbagai aksi nyata, antara lain melalui pembentukan Komite Nasional Ekonomi dan Keuangan Syariah (KNEKS) dan penggabungan 3 bank syariah di bawah naungan Himbara, Himpunan Bank Milik Negara, menjadi Bank Syariah Indonesia (BSI). Pengembangan ekonomi dan keuangan syariah di Indonesia difokuskan pada 4 bidang, yaitu pengembangan industri produk halal, pengembangan ekonomi dan keuangan syariah, pengembangan dana sosial syariah, dan pengembangan kegiatan usaha syariah atau bisnis syariah. Bank Syariah memiliki peran strategis untuk mencapai cita-cita Indonesia menjadi pusat keuangan syariah dunia. Dalam hal ini, Bank Syariah merupakan pilar penting dalam pengembangan ekonomi dan keuangan syariah lainnya, khususnya dalam industri produk halal dan perluasan usaha syariah. Bank Syariah di masa depan setidaknya memiliki 3 peran penting. Pertama, memfasilitasi permodalan kepada pelaku yang bergerak di industri produk halal. Yang kedua, memberikan akses kepada seluruh pelaku bisnis, baik yang besar, menengah maupun yang kecil. Dan yang ketiga, dapat melayani transaksi besar dan bertaraf global. Industri produk halal yang sedang kita bangun adalah industri halal yang tidak hanya memenuhi kebutuhan dalam negeri, tapi juga berorientasi pada pasar global yang dari waktu ke waktu terus mengalami peningkatan. Pemberian akses yang lebih besar kepada pelaku bisnis syariah ditujukan untuk lebih memperbanyak jumlah dan kualitas pelaku usaha syariah dari hari ke hari semakin tumbuh dan berkembang. Dan semakin meningkatnya keterbukaan ekonomi membuat hubungan ekonomi antar negara semakin meningkat, sehingga bank syariah harus mampu melayani transaksi yang bertaraf global. Oleh karena itu, bank syariah yang ada saat ini harus ditingkatkan peranannya agar lebih mampu melayani transaksi besar dan bertaraf global tanpa melupakan pembiayaan para pelaku usaha domestik, khususnya pelaku UMKM. Salah satu upaya yang telah dilakukan adalah menggabungkan 3 bank syariah milik Himbara menjadi Bank Syariah Indonesia. Selain itu, upaya penguatan bank syariah dilakukan dengan mendorong bank-bank pembangunan daerah BPD yang telah siap untuk dikonversi menjadi bank syariah di samping unit-unit syariah yang ada pada BPD. Langkah ini diharapkan dapat meningkatkan kemampuan pembiayaan syariah oleh bank syariah, baik yang sifatnya bank umum maupun bank daerah. Saudara-saudara sekalian, agar peran bank syariah lebih optimal, maka diperlukan berbagai upaya peningkatan, antara lain penyiapan sumber daya manusia yang unggul dan berakhlak mulia, pemanfaatan teknologi berbasis digital, pengembangan inovasi yang berkelanjutan dalam hal menciptakan produk dan layanan baru, perluasan jaringan layanan perbankan syariah hingga ke daerah-daerah, dan perluasan literasi kepada masyarakat. Perguruan tinggi memiliki peran penting dalam pengembangan ekonomi dan keuangan syariah, khususnya perbankan syariah. Ekonomi dan keuangan syariah merupakan bagian integral dari sistem perekonomian nasional yang memiliki peran penting dalam upaya pemulihan ekonomi nasional. Oleh karena itu, perguruan tinggi diharapkan dapat memberikan sumbangsi dalam bentuk pemikiran, inovasi, penyiapan SDM, dan mendorong literasi dalam memajukan ekonomi dan keuangan syariah Indonesia. Saya mengharapkan UNS sebagai salah satu universitas terbaik di Indonesia untuk mengambil peran dalam rangka mencetak generasi muda yang unggul di bidang ekonomi dan keuangan syariah, dalam rangka mempercepat tumbuhnya ekonomi dan keuangan syariah di Indonesia. Pada kesempatan ini saya juga menyampaikan apresiasi pada seluruh sivitas akademika UNS yang telah menyelenggarakan the 2021 11 Maret International Conference on Islamic Economic. Semoga konferensi ini dapat menghasilkan rumusan-rumusan yang inovatif bagi pengembangan ekonomi dan keuangan syariah. Akhir kata, saya ucapkan selamat berkonferensi. Semoga Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala senantiasa memberikan inayahnya serta meridai ikhtiar yang kita lakukan. Terima kasih. Wallahul muwaffiq ila aqwamit thariq. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Kiai Haji Ma'ruf Amin. What an enlightening speech. Okay, well, ladies and gentlemen, be moving the next agenda, and this is the special session, and this is the main session for today. We will enter the plenary session, and the session will be accompanied with a special moderator, Ms. Duanti Cahyaningsih, PhD candidate. We will connect with Ms. Duanti. Hello, good morning, Ms. Duanti. Okay, I wish you in a good condition today. Okay, so without further ado, this is a plenary session with Dewanti Jayaningsih.
Hear my voice now? Can you hear my voice?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, we do.
Oh, thank you very much. So, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all of the participants from anywhere you can join this conference. Once again, welcome, and let me greeting you once again. Welcome to the plenary session of the 2021 11 Maret International Conference on Islamic Economics. And this year's we have the theme is Islamic finance, gender diversity, and the young generation, held hybridly, online and offline in Surakarta, organized by Faculty of Economic and Business, Universitas 11 Maret. I'm Dewanti Cahyaningsih, and it's such a pleasure for me to be part of this significant event. So in today's plenary session, joining with us four respectable speakers. The first speaker is Mr. Arif Rosyad Hasan, Independent Commissioner of Bank Syariah Indonesia from Indonesia. Second speaker will be Professor Dr. Kabir Hasan from University of New Orleans, United States. Assalamualaikum, Prof. Hasan and Mr. Arif.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
It's a pleasure to having both of you in our conference today. And we also have Dr. Aisyah Muniza from INSHIP Malaysia. So Dr. Muniza, can you hear us? Okay, again, I think she will join later. And last but not least, we will have Professor Iza Mafruha from Universitas 11 Maret, Indonesia. So ladies and gentlemen, today's plenary session, we will discuss about Islamic economics, not limited to Islamic finance, but also in a various perspective that will be delivered by the talk of the four speakers today. And right after, we will also have the question and answer session that you can deliver your question through the Zoom chat box. And I will try to bring up the question. And then the Commissioner of Bank Syariah Indonesia, he got the Master in Health Policy from Universitas Indonesia and has various professional experiences. And I only will bring some of them. So he became the Independent Commissioner of PT Bank Syariah Indonesia, and then a chairman of Youth Affairs of Indonesia Mas Council, Deputy Secretary General and Indonesian Young Entrepreneur Association, and many more. So without further ado, Mr. Arif Rosyad Hasan, platform is yours.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Innal hamdalillah nahmaduhu wa nasta'inuhu wa nastaghfiruh wa na'udzu billahi min shururi anfusina wa min sayyiati a'malina. May yahdihillahu fala mudilla lahu wa may yudlil fala hadiyalah. Asyhadu an la ilaha illallah wa asyhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wa hlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Alhamdulillah, uh, it's very I'm very proud, yeah, and my pleasure to be here to in the 2021 11 Maret International Conference on Islamic Economic, ya. Uh, the Honorable Vice President Kiai Haji Ma'ruf Amin, and then the Dean of FEB UNS, Professor Joko Suharjanto, all of the speakers, Prof. Dr. Muhammad Kabir Hasan from University of New Orleans, Dr. Iza Mafruha, ya, Universitas 11 Maret, and then Dr. Aisyah Munisa from Malaysia. It's very proud to be here, and maybe Miss Dewanti, I will if I forget, I'm maybe mixed with bahasa, ya. Okay, I will share my presentation, and I'm sorry I asked for the committee because for the first presentation, because after that I will I have also agenda in at maybe 9:30, ya. So I am moving fast, yeah. This is my presentation about youth empowerment for Islamic economy, yeah. Then we see Muslim is a project to be the fastest growing religion. Will reach second most populated religion in the world, yeah, in 2050. And yet the source is the future of religion population growth projection, Pew Research and Center. And the data, when we see the number of people 2010 growing, yeah, for decades, Islamic will grow faster than any other major world religion. So I think it's very for Indonesia, yeah, because the number of Muslim population, yeah, Indonesia is number one, maybe 12.5, yeah, percent Muslim in the world. So this is very opportunity, yeah, for we push our Islamic finance, yeah, to yeah to because it's very interesting for us, and I think this is a very interesting momentum, yeah, for we grow together. And then Indonesia is currently has a huge number of young population. Make Indonesia has a huge potential, yeah. With its huge population, Indonesian young generation is but a strong arsenal and market target which cannot be ignored, yeah. We see Indonesia young population, yeah, 64.50 million, yeah, yeah, like 25%, I think, yeah. We have Indonesian young population, and then when we see this census of penduduk 2020, we see a millennial, Gen Z and post Gen Z right now more than 50%, maybe like 60 to 70% Indonesian people is young people, young people. So I think this is very it's very interesting for us for empowering young people in Indonesia. And then Muslim in Indonesia is also very dynamic, formed by various Islamic organization, which each of them has their own youth league, not only for regeneration, purpose, but also to make significant change through passion, creativity, and innovation. Those young Muslim in Indonesia are also an important asset. We have many Indonesian Islamic organization like Nahdlatul Ulama, Muhammadiyah, Syarikat Islam, and many more, I think. Then also the Indonesian Islamic organization have Islamic organization wing, like in Nahdlatul Ulama we have Pergerakan Muslim Islam Indonesia, and Muhammadiyah we have Indonesia IMM, we have HME and many Islamic organization yang youth wings, for the Indonesian Islamic organization. And then to be well prepared and benefit from the young population and its demographic bonus, all stakeholders must understand what the market needs. And I always say to my friend, in the organization Islamic Young Leader, about the future of jobs report, the World Economic Forum. Then 2020, we must have the soft skill, like complex problem solving, critical thinking, creativity, people management, coordinating with others, emotional intelligence, judgment and decision making, service orientation, negotiation, and cognitive flexibility. The soft skill is right now is already done, I think, for the Muslim young people, when they run in the organization. But I think it's very important for us to make the soft skill is lighting for each other, because I think Indonesia, this momentum we have a demographic bonus, 70% in Indonesia we have a productivity age, it's very important to us for empowering again young people. And then a future-oriented young generation and Islamic economy is a superb combination, considering Islamic economy as a future economy. That we have 3 pillars of Islamic economy: fair and just, economic activities that should avoid exploitation, such as excessive hoarding, unproductive activity, and speculative transaction, and arbitrariness, and balance activity in real life, financial sector, risk return management, business social activity, spiritual material aspect, and benefit activities preservation of environment, and orientation toward the benefit for the sake of human being, which meant to preserve faith, soul, mind, offspring, life, and world, yeah, known as Maqasid Sharia. Yeah, this is very important for us to know that the commitment of all of the country in the world to SDGs, yeah, Sustainability Development Goals, and SDGs is very near with the Maqasid Sharia, yeah, three P's: people, planet, profit, and like to be Maqasid Sharia for preserve faith, soul, mind, yeah, life, and world, yeah. And both Indonesian young generation and Indonesian Islamic economy have a great prospect. We see, yeah, right now in global Islamic economic indicator, Indonesia number 4, yeah, and I think in end of October 2020, we got one rank, yeah, in IFC. So I think it's very yeah, we have a great prospect, yeah, for a young generation to yeah, to empowering, yeah, the young generation for facing the opportunity. And President Jokowi talked to us in Bank Syariah Indonesia, one for inclusivity, two for technology, three, the three I think is related with my presentation, because President Jokowi tell to us for yeah, empowering the young people for Bank Syariah Indonesia. Then right now we have 70%, yeah, in Bank Syariah Indonesia, the people who work, yeah, with our team in Bank Syariah Indonesia. And then we must also competitive with the other conventional bank, yeah, in Indonesia. Then Bank Syariah Indonesia is a youth friendly Islamic bank, yeah, as a part of Islamic economic ecosystem. BSI, as the biggest Islamic bank in Indonesia, tries to engage with millennials and the other young generation, yeah. So the BSI campaign strategy also focus on targeting the young segment by campaigning BSI as a financial partner, yeah, social partner, and spiritual partner. Yeah, we make the communication ideas, the value proposition is like modern, inclusive, and have a global vision. Yeah, yesterday I come back from Dubai to see BSI will come to have one branch, yeah, in Dubai, United Emirates Arab, yeah. And then the marketing communication, yeah, we said in bahasa kemudahan dalam keberkahan. And then also we have many millennial products variation, yeah, like in BSI Mobile, BSI Griasi Muda, and many more, the products variation of BSI. Then we also offering a wide range solution for a young generation in mobile. We also have right now biometric FR online boarding, when we opening account approval less than 30 seconds, we also build the ecosystem SISWAF, and then many more, facilities of digital in Bank Syariah Indonesia. And then the business activity, we see millennials proportion is around 20% of total Hajj registrant in Indonesia. It makes Bank Syariah Indonesia to offer the program name Haji Muda Indonesia, or Indonesian Young Hajj, and then also we right now run for the build the Islamic ecosystem, one of 7 strategy Bank Syariah Indonesia is the build ecosystem, Islamic ecosystem. We know we have the biggest mosque in the world, like 800,000, near 1 million, I think. Then we have Islamic finance, we have like civil society, Muhammadiyah, Nahdlatul Ulama, and then we have a number of Jamaah and Hajj and Umroh. It's very big, We have also a potential SISWAF, and Wakaf, many more. And then we right now focus for build, Islamic ecosystem, for Bank Syariah Indonesia. This is the how to build a super ecosystem Syariah digital, Islamic digital economy. We want to come up the e-commerce Syariah, for digital wellness service, IoT, fintech, and Syariah bank, and on-demand service Syariah, and we also have the quick win and long term, 1 month ago we make a memorandum of understanding with Dewan Masjid Indonesia, and we accelerate the digitalization in the mosque, and then at the long term we build e-commerce Syariah, Imani Syariah, and also for the digital transaction, in BMT and BPRS. Then this is the challenge, and I said like we have homework, literacy and inclusion rate of Islamic finance in Indonesia are still low, need more innovation, community-based action, and of course movement, and our agenda in the future. We want to build bank 5.0, super neo bank, and then rise from most, then how to empowering the community base like youth. We have BSI Muda, Indonesian Islamic Youth Economic Forum, Rabu Hijrah, Muktamar Pemuda Islam, and many more. We have right now maybe like 30 to 50 community base from the mosque and also the other this is also in my last presentation. This is all of the action we will run. How to make the economy run in the mosque and many Islamic ecosystem. Then we with our minister Erick Thohir, Bahlil Lahadalia, also Lutfi and many more for again to empowering young people for make their the best future of life. I think enough, and I'm sorry before I can stay for 11 because at maybe at 10 I must go to our the other agenda. Thank you, Miss Dewanti. Billahi taufiq wal hidayah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much, Mr. Rashid, for delivering such interesting material. Giving the talk about at the first, he talked on the potential on the population-wise, how the Indonesia is the most populous Muslim country, and then the number of the productive person in our population in Indonesia reach more than around 70%, and the potential of the youth of Indonesia, and how he mentioned about the Bank Syariah Indonesia try to embrace that potential regarding the potential of the youth market, and then the facility that BSI try to offer, and then the challenge what we have regarding the low level of financial literacy and financial inclusion rate in Indonesia, and a lot of activity that Mr. Rashid presented about the BSE's agenda on how to pursuing and building the Islamic ecosystem in Indonesia itself. Thank you very much. But as Mr. Rashid announced to us that he cannot join us until the end of the meeting. So once again, thank you very much, Mr. Rashid, and it's such a pleasure for us to have you in this significant event also. And ladies and gentlemen, proceeding to the next speakers today, we will have Professor Dr. Muhammad Kabir Hasan. He is a professor of finance in Department of Economics and Finance in the University of New Orleans. He currently holds 3 endowed Chair Hibernia Professor of Economic and Finance, Hancock Whitney Chair Professor in Business, and the Bank One Professor in Business in the University of New Orleans. And Professor Hasan is also the winner of the 2016 Islamic Development Bank Prize in Islamic Banking and Finance. With more than 350 papers and more than numbers of published as a book chapter in the top preferred academic journal. He also been recognized with the Lifetime Achievement Award by UNO Research Council in 2019. Without any further delay, let's meet Professor Kabir Hasan. So, Prof. Hasan, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Perfect. So it's always
Okay.
good to see you. And then please, platform is yours.
Okay, shall I start now? Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes. Would you
Something
please
weird
to
is-
set it into the slideshow mode?
Yeah, I'm trying to do that. Why my cursor is not moving? Oh. Okay. Is it okay?
Yes, it's perfect now. So please, Professor.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I thank you, the authorities and the conference committee to invite me to give this keynote speech. And also special thanks to Dastafian Risfandi, who spent a few months with me at the University of New Orleans. So, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. It's almost 8:45 in New Orleans p.m. on Monday night. It must be 9:45 in Jakarta. So good morning, good afternoon, whoever is sitting wherever in the world. So this is the title of my presentation, ESG, Impact Investing and Value-Based Islamic Finance. So what are the features of impact investment? So there are 4 things has to happen. The intentionality of the impact. An investment must be made with the explicit intention that the investment have a positive social or environmental impact. Second, there has to be a financial return. Investment has a return on capital and is thus not an act of philanthropy. Third, a range of asset classes. Investment target a rate of return somewhere between below market fixed adjustment market rate across asset classes. And you'll be able to measure the impact. The investor must be committed to measuring the social or environmental impact of the investment. Now, if you look at the market size of this impact investing, there are different segments of it. First one is grants. Estimated market size is about $75 billion, approximately as 5% of total foundation assets globally. Now, program-related investment and mission-related investment, they are also included into the 5% grant allocation. MRIs could potentially equal the assets of all foundations, approximately $1.5 trillion globally. Impact investment, number 3, using a survey published in 2020, GIN estimated the core impact investment market size at about 715 billion. Development finance, number 4, the 25 HIPSO signatory development finance institution could be seen as impact investors with total assets of 724 billion. Expected risk-adjusted returns are expected to be approximately 10%. ESG finance, in 2018, more than half of all global assets under management followed some form of ESG with a market size of $54 billion. $54 trillion, and the evidence suggests that over 95% of the ESG is negative. Now, I know Indonesia is a multiracial, multi-religious country. So is there any religious orientation of impact investing or sustainable finance? Yes. If you look at the Christianity, 3 monotheistic religion, the Christianity can take its investment principle from Old and New Testament, providing guidance of where one should invest or not. Impact investment is supported by Christian stewardship, is consistent with the principles laid out in the encyclicals such as common priority to address care of the planet. If you look at the Judaism, the first of the monotheistic religion, then Christianity, then Islam, Judaism has a clear set of specific roles for the conducting of financial and commercial activities. Within the stated values are clear justification for impact investment, the drive to act intentionally to make positive changes to the society. And finally, Islam, through the Quran and other texts, lays out a set of rules connecting investment more than other faiths and enough for a separate system of finance. That's why I call this value-based finance. Islamic scriptural support for impact investment comes from the explicit responsibility for Muslims to preserve the earth as its stewards, as stated in the Holy Quran. There are also dharmic faiths like Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, Sikhism. Dharmic principles emphasize environmental stewardship, sustainability, and improving the general welfare of the world. It may be considered dharmically correct for an investing activity to invest in those opportunities that also provide for the betterment of the environment and society. Buddhism also stresses the idea of right livelihood, doing business without causing harm or violence to others. Ideally, decision making would be made using an integrated framework of mindfulness, concentration, and wisdom. Two principles that guide the Sikh views of finance and wealth creation are dharmasal, the pursuit of social justice and social responsibility, and rehat mariwada, the Sikh code of discipline. As such, investing stocks and shares may not appeal to many Sikhs. However, impact investment aligns with the principle as well. So if you look at this faith, tradition, and principles in investment, there are 7 that I mentioned here, and there are many other faith. There are specific principles investment are laid out in their religious text, like Christianity, Islam, Judaism. But the principles from which investment principles can be derived, like Hinduism, Buddhism, Sikhism, Jainism, is there. You can derive it. So the principle that support impact investment, all 7 religions support impact investment. Now, if you look at Islamic finance and sustainability, so it creates a sustainable, meaningful value to the society. You align financial practices towards purposes that include social aspect. So there are 3 aspects of it: achieving social good while generating financial returns, how social issues are being addressed to optimize positive impact on society, economy, well-being, and development, and contributing back to the community. Social good, provision of specific goods or services aimed at benefiting society. Practicing social good, a behavioral outcome to achieve desired results like inclusion, dealing with underserved, economic development, and social initiative. So Islamic finance should engage in socially responsible activities to assist individuals or societies to enhance their living and environmental conditions. By promoting social trust, cooperation, solidarity that leads to a balance between individual rights and rights of the society and state, and doing good is encouraged, does not subscribe to encroachment on anyone's proprietary rights. Islam advocates fairness, promote comprehensive human development, and stimulate economic activity and entrepreneurship while addressing poverty and inequality. Now, if you combine ethical and Islamic finance, there are a lot of commonalities. There is a value proposition. So for ethical finance, it outlined in the stated intent, environmental sustainability one of the goal. Islamic finance stated intent expounded in the Quran and Hadith from the principle of vigilancy. The manner environmental sustainability achieved is coming from Brundtland Report 1987 for ethical finance on ESG investing. The definition they have adopted, meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of the future generation to meet their own needs. Of the Islamic finance, do good and prevent harm by treating the environment in a fair and just manner, moderation and avoiding wastage and excess, treat every living human being with mercy, due of care to protect and keep safe for next generation. The methodology they use, both finance, different treatment processes, negative screening, ESG integration, shareholder activism. Now, Islamic finance, it has a Sharia screening process, it has a financial filter and business filter. Now, advancing annual sustainable agenda, there are different organizations that spread out in the world, like Global Alliance on Banking for Values, Fortune 500 changed the world list, Dow Jones Sustainability Indices, FTSE Good Index, and targeted or impact investment. So the last sector that I mentioned is capital is for a defined purpose. There has to be a measurable impact on environment alongside financial return on investment, and there is exclusion of investment that damage the environment. So how do you find the balance between nature and Islamic finance? It can be achieved through a set of core values. And what are those values? You have the adl, and you have the wasat, you have the amana, you have the rahma. Adl means treat the environment just and fairly. Wasat you follow the middle path or moderation. Amana, trust and custodianship of the earth, and Rahama, treat every living human beings with mercy. So explicit negative screening to exclude activities that are harmful to the environment. Now, ethical finance also contribute to financial stability because it is a longer term orientation. It avoids short-term transactions, avoid high-risk speculative activities, governance process in ESG framework. It is a high degree of disclosure and transparency. It has an emphasis on culture, ethics, and values. Now, Islamic finance contributes financial stability because of the requirement that financial transactions be supported by real economic activity. Profit and risk sharing has built-in risk management, robust governance process. There is an embedded transparency within the Islamic finance industry, and it avoids speculative and illegal activities. Now, both Islamic finance and ethical finance share common goals. Both have long-term orientation and sustainability. Both are for inclusion, ethical values, economic well-being, and of course, most importantly, preserving interests of the next generation. Now let's look at some theory behind it. I mean, those who do empirical work on ESG and corporation performance or banking performance. So there is a very important paper came out in 2021 where these authors try to develop a framework, theoretical framework from which you can explain or analyze the different relationship between ESG activities and farm performance. So you are familiar with this standard mean variance efficient frontier. So they developed this ESG Sharpe ratio frontier, and you can see tangency portfolio using ESG information, ESG efficient frontier. So this part is the ESG inefficient frontier. Then you have individual asset and try to reach this tangency portfolio ignoring ESG information. But when you are there, you are trying to use ESG information into the portfolio setup. So then from there is a model being created called ESG adjusted CAPM. So there are three types of ESG investors in the market. Those who are unaware investor, ESG, those are aware investors, and those who are ESG motivated investor. For the ESG motivated investor, this security market line actually downward sloping. For ESG unaware investors, the security market line is upward sloping. And they also have run an empirical exercise. Now they measure ESG as a governance measure based on accruals, non-ESG information, equity risk premium, and book to market value. So what they do, if you look at the EU, the red one, the benefit of ESG information is a 12% increase in ESG. A is the aware, EU is the unaware. Now, if you want to go beyond A, what happens? Those who are motivated, the cost of ESG preference 4% decrease in Sharpe ratio when doubling ESG. So if you are one of those, the ESG motivated investors, you would be willing to accept a lower rate of return. So these are the framework, ESG efficient framework, new framework to optimize portfolio risk and return, evaluate cost and benefits of ESG investing, benefit of ESG information, quantified as increase in maximum SR. It's a theoretical foundation for ESG integration. Markowitz ESG 4-fund separation theorem. And this really explains different conflicting results. Theory explains how a ESG score relates to expected returns. There could be higher returns on investors don't consider. That means they are aware, predicts future profits, and there could be lower returns when investors take this into account and prefer ESG. Now there could be different ESG measures are different. Now there's a problem with the ESG. ESG performance is very difficult to measure. This leads investors to focus on short-term financial matrices for business valuation. Profits and dividends are known, but the ESG performance is very difficult to define. So there are 6 different ESG providers in the market. ESG rating agencies collect and aggregate a range of information on a company's ESG performance, produce an overall ESG score as well as scores for the individual components E, S, and G separately. the correlation between ESG ratings across different providers is about 30%. Whereas if you contrast this, the rating between the S&P and Moody's almost 100%. So there are source of disagreement. What is the source of disagreement? Whether company is a member of UN Global Compact has a correlation of 86, whether the CEO is the same chairman as the correlation of 56. So there is a strong rater effect. If a provider rates the company highly on one attribute, it will also rate it highly on other attributes as well. And this is an example called halo effect, exclusively mentioned in psychology. So there could be also differences between different ESG rating providers. Like for example, there is a paper, they analyze like provider one out of the 6 rating agencies, ESG rating agencies, ranks Wells Fargo as top quartile in governance, while provider 2 ranks it in the bottom 5%. That's because provider 1 count fake bank account scandal within information to customers, which part of its social score, but not in its governance score. Now, what does this mean when you have different conflicting ESG score? ESG ratings are not useless or that providers are biased or incompetent. ESG performance is simply difficult to measure and reasonable people can disagree. Just as some equity research analysts will rank a company as buy and another one as sell, same company at the same time. ESG rating is not a final criterion to trade according to it. Some investors may care about electromagnetic radiation, but others may not. And so an investor needs to understand whether rating takes this into account. So what are the key takeaways from these differences of ESG ratings? Investors shouldn't rely only on ratings, but need to deeply understand the management of the company and its strategic context. They should delve into multiple sources of ESG information that are not considered by the market, since it is difficult in valuing intangible factors. Investors, not only socially responsible investors, should take ESG factors seriously. While they are sometimes dismissed as non-financial factors, evidence shows that they often become financial material in the long run. Now, what are the empirics say? There was a definitive study. This ESG can significantly improve performance. Like for example, ESG scores were 6% higher for Sharia compliant, non-Sharia compliant financial companies, and it was 10% for Sharia compliant non-financial companies. So Sharia and ESG screening show correlation. Combining both will improve overall performance. It is greater focus on ESG specific screening on top of Sharia screening would minimize the risk from some of this exposure. Now, let me give you a quick rendition of a couple of papers that I have been working with right now. So does ESG reduce equity costs and risk for Sharia compliant firms in emerging markets? So what we did in this paper empirically deals the linkage between the cost of equity and the market risk of non-financial firms in emerging markets, while considering both CSR and Sharia criteria. We use OLS and difference and different regression. Our OLS sample consists of listed non-financial firms in emerging markets with non-missing values for ESG score, Sharia certification for the period of 2002 and 2018. We document the interacted effect of CSR in countries with higher levels of Sharia sensitivity on the cost of equity and market risk. We find support for the mediating role of risk toward the cost of equity in non-financial firms in corporate emerging markets. We call this a risk channel. We exploit a quasi-natural experiment setting and provide evidence on the response to exogenous shocks of highly CSR engaged firms incorporated in highly Sharia concentrated emerging markets. Our baseline result survived regardless of alternative econometric methodologies, cost of equity measures, ESG measures, and lastly, alternative measures of Sharia concentration. Why we do this study? There's a sizable literature finds a negative relationship between CSR and farm risk, cost of debt, cost of equity, cost of capital, dividend policy. But the Islamic corporate finance literature is still in its infancy. Certification effect of Sharia compliance, lowering cost of capital, Halim et al. This is one of my co-authored paper, in affecting stock market valuation and bond ratings and influencing credit ratings. Now, Islamic level can also affect Sharia compliance firm. We have the JCF paper 2017, style of managers in taking financial decision, NAS 2017. So this is the baseline OLS the regression. If you look at the ESG and Sharia interaction, this is negative and significant for the cost of capital and also for total risk. Now, the baseline regression, we have cost of capital and risk. So these are the equation that you see on the top of the screen. The interaction between ESG and Sharia, this is what we are looking at, our pivotal variable is always statistically significant and negative with the cost of equity and risk. We obtain robust evidence of mediating role of market risk on the cost of equity returns, especially idiosyncratic risk. The benefit of integrating ESG practice in highly Sharia concentrated countries increases during exogenous finance shocks such as 2015 and 16 oil shock. Robustness confirms our results. We do not find statistically differences between firms belonging to OIC countries and firms not belonging to it. The negative association between ESG, HHI, Sharia, and CO is mainly mediated by idiosyncratic component of the firm's total risk. So this is, we contribute to the literature by linking CSR Islamic corporate finance research stream. Our results suggest that achieving higher ESG score provides benefits to firms in terms of cost of equity and risk in countries more sensitive to corporate social responsibility. And these benefits are strengthened during exogenous economic shocks that typically produce greater adverse impact in less economically resilient economic countries. And the second paper I want to talk about, when Rasfandi was here, we did work on this: access remuneration, governance, and risk-taking in Islamic banks. What we do in this paper, we investigate the impact of remuneration of Islamic banks, governance pertaining with the directors, Sharia Supervisory Board, executives, and CEO. Our sample is 109 Islamic banks in 18 countries from 2011 to 2018, yielding 653 observations. We estimate firms' excess remuneration and find that all boards, including CEO, are over remunerated from 84,000 USD, almost 1.25 million. However, in further investigation, we find that excess remuneration in directors and SSB favors Islamic banks, particularly to lessen the risk-taking incentive. Regarding the executive and CEO, do not find such connection. The results are robust using various measures of excess remuneration, changing variables of interest, using other regression techniques, and using real value remuneration instead of the excess. Why do we do this? We extend the debate on the executive's pay, especially in the banking environment. Compared to other industries, banks and other financial services are heavily regulated because their interconnectedness with other banks and firms will significantly impact the whole economy, especially if they face financial crisis. Therefore, the wrong design of the executive remuneration, excessive remuneration, could be the major driver of excessive risk-taking, becoming an additional cause of the financial crisis. Moreover, since Islamic banks' risk profile substantially differs from those conventional peers, the whole design of the remuneration as impact on bank risk should also not be the same. To the best of our knowledge, we find no studies empirically examine the role of bank remuneration on Islamic bank stability. We contribute to the literature stream by focusing on the remuneration of all board types and highest layer in Islamic banks, board of directors, executive board, Sharia Supervisory Board, and Chief Executive Officer. So you have the access, director, SSB, EX, and CEO. You see the regression coefficient are significantly directors and Sharia Supervisory Board, but not the other two types of top-notch management. So what we do on our regression analysis, we have the log Z score, that's a measure of stability. The high remuneration scheme in the board of directors and Sharia supervisory board could lessen the risk-taking incentive Islamic banks. Our result emphasizes the importance of an inseparable two-layer governance system in Islamic banks. Both of them have similar monitoring and advising functions in the bank, but in a distinct focus. Regarding access, executive access CEO do not observe any such impact. It could be because Islamic banks are a heavily regulated environment and both executives and CEO should also comply with Sharia requirements. So we investigate how remuneration policy Islamic bank shapes risk-taking. We suggest Islamic bank's board are over-remunerated. The high payment received by the director and SSB can mitigate the risk-taking incentives and therefore maintain Islamic bank stability. So if you look at this force structure, the directors and SSB actually are the lower paid. So if we increase their payment, they engage their effort more into the bank's activity, and that helps reduce the riskiness as well as the riskiness of the bank, or it makes it more stable. Now, our as such a regulator do provide well remuneration designed especially for board of directors and SSB. In some countries such as Indonesia and Malaysia, the government have taken a specific action on this issue, such as regarding the appointment and validation of the Sharia board in each Islamic bank. So you pay them well and also you watch them so that they do their job. Now, for the sake of time, I want to go to my next section. So one more time, the data again. This is a more recent data curation. ESG asset under management is expected to represent 80% of total AUM by 2030, and this is a short-term investment. It is expected to grow by 153 million all, and out of this 153 million, 125 million will be under ESG criterion. Now, markets rewarded strongly ESG performance even after the COVID outbreak. So if you look at performance showed higher resilience than the benchmark during the market downturn. So if you look at February 2020, start of the sell-off, market picking up in March 2020, and at the end of May 31st, the market really went up by 0.8%. When you compare the MCI World ESG Lenders Net Index versus MCI. Now, what are the overview case system investing approaches for asset management? There are 7 criteria. So 1, we start with exclusions. You exclude issues with negative ESG impact like tobacco or controversies like UNGC violation. Then number 2, you look at best in class, selecting companies or tilting entire portfolios toward higher ESG performance. Number 3, you look at the thematic funds, usually sustainability themes like climate as basis for allocation towards industry sectors or companies. Number 4, you look at impact investing that we discussed, investing in entities that have intention to generate ESG impact alongside a financial return. Number 5, ESG integration, systemically and explicitly integrating ESG factors in traditional investment analysis and decision making. And finally, you engage using dialogue, voting, other shareholder activism to urge issuers to improve ESG functions. But since I told you before, there is no standard definition of ESG integration leads to over-reporting of ESG factors in annual report. So if you compare the reported ESG asset under management and Morningstar estimates. So if you look at most asset under management disclose high ESG under management as part of the annual sustainable reporting. There is a Boston Consulting Group estimates of ESG based on Morningstar data hint that those numbers might be inflated. Like for example, if you look at the diagram, the blue one, ESG based on estimation based on Morningstar data, it shows BlackRock, they put $650 billion in ESG asset under management, but actually the number should be 190 million. So BlackRock, Almundi, UBS are the players with the biggest divergence between self-reported and estimated ESG asset under management. So you use this ESG integration on embedding is, so you try to integrate ESG in portfolio selection and investing. So steps of integration: number one, you conduct research and analyze data. Number two, you evaluate securities. Number three, you build portfolios. But if you look at when you conduct your research, information gathering, that's where the impact of ESG factors are very high, like 1.1 information gathering, 1.2 perspective generation, and the final output that you receive, your material ESG information identified, collected, and curated. Now, when you look at evaluate securities, then use security shortlist based on insight from the universe screening and the previous step, and fundamental analysis from this step, universe screening, fundamental analysis, and security selection. And finally, you build portfolio construction, portfolio rebalancing, and portfolio monitoring. So your decision to either buy, hold, or sell based on risk factors and asset allocation objectives. And all these things are moved by you improve engagement with the issuers. Now, these ESG assets are growing, as I said before, it's about 35 trillion, 15% last 2 years. So the numbers are growing. The Asia is coming in the forefront. Countries in Asia have lagged in their ESG scores before, but the gap is narrowing now. Now, regulators also are becoming very harsh or very vigilant on the ESG performance of the companies. Now, they are including new disclosure requirements, sustainable funds, traditional investment approaches that merely reference ESG are being viewed more skeptically by the regulators. Responsible investment policy adoption is starting point, but is not enough on its own to make an investment fund sustainable. So you have the European Commission, you have the Financial Conduct Authority. Now, let's come to Islamic finance and ESG. What is Islamic finance tool for SDG? You're all familiar, the fundamental principle of Islamic finance, a great asset to achieve SDG goals, financial stability. We talked about financial inclusion, reduce vulnerability, social and environmental activities, and infrastructure finance. So Islamic finance is a comprehensive solution in supporting SDGs. So this is a table I'm borrowing from the ISDB study. They have done 3 different categories of investment, like infrastructure development and capacity building, social development, promoting innovation to achieve efficiency. And you can see 8 SDG goals can form under the first one. And what are the Islamic finance mechanism? Raising wholesale funding, mainly from Sukuk program, Islamic syndicated financing. If you look at the social development, there are 6 SDG goals can be covered by the Islamic social finance and financial inclusion. You have Zakat, Waqf, Islamic microfinance. If you want to promote innovation and achieve efficiency, there are 6 SDG goals can be covered under this. An equity-based structure from the Islamic finance is more suitable in promoting innovation such as Islamic private equity, Islamic venture capital, equity funds, and crowdfunding. So here I offer some of these instruments. For example, let's take crowdfunding. What are the instruments you can use? You can use the Islamic crowdfunding instruments. And what are the impact on the enterprises? The companies will provide this. There's a various crowdfunding platforms. Who are you targeting? Micro enterprises. If you look at the last one, value chain, Islamic venture capital finance and Islamic trade finance, and who are the enterprises are impacted by this value chain, cooperative and inclusive business. And what it is doing, it is creating employment. And you can see there is a lot of younger people with this technological know-how. They come out different apps, and actually it is connecting the value chain with the IT and providing Islamic finance to different sectors. Now, here is a little case from Malaysia. So this is, you probably heard about the LEAP Ed and Yayasan Amir Trust Schools program. So it is an investing and philanthropic mix. Who are the investors into this project? The Malaysian Khazanah Nasional is commercial to achieve optimal risk-adjusted returns. It is also strategic to undertake strategic investment in long-term economic benefits to Malaysian citizens. And it's a 2-fund structure. There's a commercial part to generate a return of at least 3%, above the Malaysian CPI on a 5-year rolling basis and a moderate risk appetite, strategic to undertake investment to hold strategic national assets, those that generate long-term economic benefits for the Malaysian citizens. So the Ihsan Sukuk and Islamic bond, the first ever ringgit denominated social impact Sukuk, falls under the Khazanah Strategic Fund. The Sukuk was issued to finance transformation in schools which would have long-term economic benefits for Malaysian citizens. Now, who are the investee? Yes and Amir and Lipit Trust Skills Program. They are working in a public-private partnership model with the government, and these two organizations run transformational programs in schools. Under guidance from the Yes and Amir and Lipit Trust Schools are allowed to manage their own budgets. These transformation programs last 5 years to improve curricula, education delivery, and school management. And these programs are funded through an innovative social impact sukuk, as I mentioned before, set up by Khazanah. What are the strategic goals they want to achieve? Improve school leadership, improve teaching, improve student performance, raising the level of equality, engagement between schools, parents, and communities. So this is a structure of the Ihsan Sukuk. If you look at 1A, Ihsan is a Wakil issuer, appoint Ihsan as Wakil, and 1B, appoint Khazanah as investment Wakil to invest the funds. Then C, issue Ihsan Sukuk to the Sukuk holders, and Sukuk holders provide process to Ihsan, and Khazanah invest into and manage Sukuk investment, and it goes to the Sukuk investment. And then if you look at 3, periodic distribution, and finally that distribution is provided to Sukuk holders. Now, what are the challenges and benefits? The Ihsan Sukuk offered what Khazanah termed the step down profits, the haircuts to the principal if the schools hit their KPIs. Foundations are comfortable with step down profit idea, and those to choose another feature of Ihsan Sukuk to forego their profits. So they want to forego their returns if their money is being invested for social impactful way. But the problem was it was very difficult to bring the institutional investor like the banks to come and invest into this project. And there has been a second tranche of this thing too. But the benefits, Khazanah has received worldwide requests to issue similar Ihsan bond in other sectors like healthcare sectors. While the Ihsan Sukuk has not yet been replicated, we expect that the scalability to be replicated and launch similar structure in other parts of the world. Now, finally, why you want to do Islamic finance? So first of all, Islamic finance is rooted in divine law. It's a prohibition of harmful transactions. It gives you economic justice for all humanity. It circulates wealth, but interest concentrated wealth among only a few. There's a commoditization, that means backed by real assets for real growth. And there is risk sharing, does not transfer risk to the borrower. So if you compare this lending in a debt-based economy and investing in the equity-based economy, you have a win-loss framework in a lending and win-win framework in equity-based. If you look at the lending, it only creates debt, excessive debt financialization, but in equity-based Islamic finance, it invests in real assets. In lending-based framework, risk is transferred, but in equity-based framework, risk is shared. In lending-based framework, unfair gains for profit and losses, but in equity-based framework, just and fair profits and loss sharing. In lending-based framework, rich gets richer, poor gets poorer, and equity-based framework, justice and equity. Now, we have a problem. There's a data in 2010. Do you know what is the global GDP 2010 was? Only $63 trillion. But the financial assets, the value of shares and bonds traded $87 trillion. Value of financial derivatives, $601 trillion. Total volume of foreign currency transaction, $955 trillion. So the fictional financial economy is over 26 times larger than everything else produced on the earth. So that brings Islamic finance as a comprehensive system. It mobilises resources. It brings all segments of the country or the citizenship into one fold. So if you look at mobile resources, you have the corporations, you have the high net worth individuals, you have the affluent individuals, you have the upper middle class, you have the middle class, and they can be integrated Islamic financial institutions or SMEs through sukuk investment equity funding. But you have the bottom of the ladder, those who are the lower middle class and hardcore poor. To reduce the gap, you bring Islamic social finance with Islamic commercial finance, which is in the mobilizing resources and providing by the Islamic commercial financial institutions. Lower middle class, you provide the microfinance and micro takaful. You have the hardcore poor, you have the Islamic social finance, zakat, awqaf, sadaqah, and qardul hasan. So what are the challenges facing Islamic finance? You have 4 challenges that we must meet. You have a communication gap. Still there are misconceptions, misunderstanding, and misplaced notions of Islamic finance that must be removed through awareness and advocacy program. Trust gap, social business and impact investment should be emphasized to remove tensions among the stakeholders of Islamic finance industry. You have the innovation gap, balance between macro and micro maqasid should be maintained. The so-called form versus substance financial engineering and talent gap, that is very important from universities. We need a new brand of scholars who are well versed in Islamic jurisprudence and secular financing techniques and mechanism. So we are talking about a paradigm shift. We want to go from conventional instability to stability, deception to transparency. We want to go from deregulation to regulation, and we want to talk about a timeless value from a value neutral. Let me finish my presentation with a Muslim statement from the SMICIE Declaration of Nature that was done in SMICIE in Italy a few years ago. The central concept of Islam is Tawhid, or unity of God. Allah is unity, and His unity is also reflected in the unity of mankind and the unity of man and nature. His trustees are responsible for maintaining the unity of creation, the integrity of the earth, its flora and fauna, its wildlife and natural environment. Unity cannot be had by discord, by setting one need against another, or letting one end predominate over another. It must be maintained by balance and harmony. The Muslims say that Islam is the middle path, and we will be answerable for how we have walked this path, how we have maintained balance and harmony in the whole of creation around us. That is all, my dear friend. I want to acknowledge the writings of various authors over the years from which I have benefited immensely and whose ideas have mingled with mine in this presentation. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you very much, Prof. Kabir Hassan. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. For delivering such a comprehensive material on how you see explaining to us, start from the impact investing and then the ESG, and then you also present some empirical paper. You talk about how the Sharia compliance and then ESG kind of affecting the cost of equity, and then you also discussing your current paper with Dr. Rispandi regarding the remuneration policy in Islamic banking shape the risk taking, and how the high remuneration kind of lessen the risk taking in the Islamic banking itself. And you also discussing Islamic finance as a tool of the SDG in the 3 different category, and then you also presenting to us the challenges that faced by the Islamic finance in general. And I really pretty sure that a lot of participants are joining with us in the offline meeting in the Lor in Hotel Surakarta, and also the participant who joining in the online meeting through the Zoom. As informed by the committee, we have nearly more than 200 participants registered and following our session today. And I also inform all the participants that after the last speaker, Professor Izam Mafruha, delivered the speech, we will have a question and answer session. So I would humbly invite all of you, if you have any kind of question, please feel free to fill in the chat box, and I will try to bring up the question to the speakers. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much still joining with us. And without further ado and any delay, I think we will proceed to the third speaker of today's plenary session, Dr. Aisyah Muniza from INSHIP Malaysia. And let me read to you a brief CV from Dr. Muniza. So Dr. Aisyah Muniza is Associate Professor at the International Center for Education in Islamic Finance in INSHIP Malaysia. She is the first female Deputy Minister of the Minister of Islamic Finance Affairs and was Deputy Minister of Finance and Treasury of Republic of Maldives. Her contribution to Islamic finance includes structuring of corporate sukuk, sovereign private sukuk of the country, including the Islamic Treasury instrument, designing the first Islamic microfinance scheme, and establishing and heading Maldives Hajj Corporation and Tabung Haji of Maldives. She got a PhD in law from International Islamic University in Malaysia. So, Assalamualaikum, very good morning, Dr. Muniza. Am I right pronouncing your name?
Yes, it's perfect.
Really good to see you.
Same here.
Thank you very much. Yes, so
Shall I
platform
proceed?
is yours. Yes, sure, please.
Yeah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa salatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in. Ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It's an honor to be here today to talk about women issues. This is a topic which is very close to my heart. And normally in conferences like this, we don't normally talk about these issues. So thank you very much for the organizers giving me this opportunity to talk about this topic. So without further ado, I will go to the topic, the role of women in the development of Islamic finance and Islamic economics. Within this presentation, I'd try to cover all these aspects. So the first aspect is about the introduction. Now, the synopsis which I want to present here today is when we talk about women participation in Islamic finance or in Islamic economics, we often tend to believe that there aren't enough women participating in the field. And therefore, we need to understand the reasons why this is happening and what are the solutions that we could implement in different parts of the world to tackle this issue. So the first thing which I wanted to discuss today is about the misconceptions about rights of women in Islam. Now, normally people believe that there are some people who tend to believe that there are social, economic, personal, and moral inhibitions which are imposed by religion to women, and therefore, because of those inhibitions, we tend to see less women participating in the workforce or in businesses or in whatever the field they want to actually work in. So, for example, some people have this misconception that there's no right to education for women, so they should not go to schools. Likewise, when they want to choose their husbands or the spouse, they believe that, again, it's not their right to choose the husband. It should be a right given to the parents. And when it comes to initiate divorce, again, there is the misconception that women can't initiate divorce, therefore they should tolerate whatever the circumstances they are in, which thinking that it is something related to qada qadar. Next is no right to have own wealth after marriage, but it's clear from the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and from the numerous hadiths we have that women have the right to deal with their own wealth even after marriage. It doesn't commingle automatically with the husband's property. Likewise, no right to property. Again, even if you look at the inheritance rule in Sharia, there are certain portions or legal rights given to women as well. And no right to have a career. So if there is no right to have a career, that simply means that there's nothing as a, I mean, how do we play the role of trustee or khalifa in this world if women doesn't have the right to choose the path she wants to do or she wants to conduct in future? So these are the major social, economic, moral, and personal misconceptions we have. And definitely this is not true because Islam believes that nobody is superior over the other person except in terms of taqwa. So now the probing question that we'd like to discuss here is about can women participate in the development of Islamic finance and Islamic economics? The short answer for this question is obviously yes, because at the end of the day, what is Islamic finance and Islamic economics? It is something which is Sharia compliant. If it's Sharia compliant within the parameters of Sharia, women should be able to participate in the development of Islamic finance and Islamic economics as well. Now, going back to the time of Prophet Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and when Islam was found, we have seen that there are numerous roles played by women in their societies. For example, in fighting in the battlefield, there are women who participated in politics, in education, in trade and commerce. We've seen role models. So why not? We also open the door today for women to participate in development of Islamic finance and Islamic economics. Now, in Islam, can women play multidimensional roles in the society? Obviously, again, the answer is yes, but there is a caveat. The caveat is it should be within the limits prescribed by Sharia. And this caveat is applicable not only for women, but for men as well. And therefore, this is something which we have to generally apply to all mankind, because at the end of the day, as trustees, as khalifas, we're supposed to live in the world in the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has prescribed. Next question is, what is the current role played by women in the development of Islamic finance and Islamic economics? Now, if you want to choose Islamic economics and Islamic finance as a career, definitely you have that part. We see CEOs, people at decision-making level and people working in financial institutions are women. And that shows that they can even choose a career by choosing Islamic finance and Islamic economics. Next is they also can become a Sharia scholar. We have seen great Sharia scholars who are women as well. For example, Professor Engku from Malaysia and Professor Dr. Rusni as well. There are a number of Sharia scholars like that who are working in different financial institutions, and they also can become Sharia advisors. For example, if they want to deal with structuring of Islamic finance instruments, definitely as a Sharia advisor, there's nothing that prohibits them from working at individual capacity or by sitting in a committee. Next is they can also apply for products for personal and economic empowerment and growth, meaning that as a consumer, they can even use Islamic finance and Islamic economics products, and there's nothing that inhibits them from doing so. Now, this is, I think, the biggest question that we need an answer. Are there many women involved in Islamic finance and Islamic economics right now? There is no correct answer for this because I believe that there's no comprehensive study which has taken in this regard for us to understand the international issues we are facing in this. However, what we do understand is that in different jurisdictions, the answer for this question varies because at the end of the day, it is the cultural barriers that we humans set that limits women participating in the workforce, not only in Islamic finance and Islamic economics. So the answer which I put here is that a handful only. For example, just to show you some statistics, I went to the latest Islamica 500 report. So in this report, they present the 500 who make Islamic economy. So when I went through the list, what I found is that out of the 500 provided, only 55 were females. So this shows that at least, I mean, there aren't so much women out there who are currently serving in the field of Islamic finance and Islamic economics. But at least we see that there is progress in this regard, because at least we see some names of women there. Now I have put some quotations here for you to understand the issues related to this. So let me go through one of the quotations here. Haris Irfan, Managing Director for the European Islamic Investment Bank, told Islamic Finance News, women have virtually zero representation at board level in Islamic banks and very little at senior management. Unless this issue is addressed, the culture of Islamic finance will be little different to the culture of conventional finance. And in another quote, it is said, in the Gulf region, where much of the sector is concentrated, there are no female Islamic scholars acting as advisors to financial institutions, a key position in the sector. While there are a few prominent women sitting on company boards and working as CEOs in Bahrain and Kuwait, there are notable exceptions. And the final quotation which I put here is, Malaysians frequently dominate lists of the most influential women in the Islamic finance sector. One list compiled by London-based magazine Isfire in 2013 named 15 Malaysians among their top 20 top picks, while in another put together by Indian magazine Islami Tijara in 2014, 7 out of the 10 women chosen were from Malaysia. So we see that there are discrepancy in this regard in jurisdictions and in regions, and this could be due to the cultural barriers which women face. So I have compiled the list for you to see. So these are the 55 women who were presented in the Islamica 500. So if you see here, the conclusion is, in terms of countries, 10 are from Malaysia, 9 from the UK, 7 from the UAE, 4 from Indonesia, 3 from Singapore, Saudi Arabia and USA, 2 from Kuwait, 1 from Belgium, Maldives, Japan, South Korea, Italy, Switzerland, Qatar, Luxembourg, Thailand, Burkina Faso, Brazil, Pakistan, Morocco, and Nigeria. There are only 15 CEOs in terms of sectors. 7 are from government and associations, 7 are from banking sector, 6 are from fashion and cosmetics, 3 from law and accounting, 3 from fintech, 3 from healthcare and pharmaceuticals. So definitely there are some challenges women are facing, whether we want to believe it or not. This is the reality, and the statistics shows that. But when we talk about statistics, definitely there's need to conduct a comprehensive research to find out the real reasons and the real figure, because at the end of the day, we have to rely on figures which are presented by some of the private companies, and their methodology might not be comprehensive enough to cover the global community. So what are the challenges? When it comes to challenges, what we understand is that there is discrimination faced by women, inequity in terms of giving jobs, or in terms of undermining the capacity and capability of women, and unacknowledgement, because this unacknowledgement arises due to the mindset that is present in the society again. So what are the issues that we need to tackle in this regard? For example, unlike men, women are supposed to take a part in the society by playing a multitasking role, and this is the expectation normally put on the shoulder of women, and therefore they have less time in focusing on their career. Next is knowledge overlooked. So sometimes being a woman is also difficult, because the moment you go to an interview or you want to do something of something within your capacity, people always judge you based on your gender. They might overlook your knowledge by saying that because you are a woman, intrinsically or naturally you have to face this and that problem, and therefore they don't want to take such risks, and they might prefer a man over a woman in a certain job. And another issue is competency overlooked, experience overlooked, and due to intrinsic duties like giving birth, all this becomes a problem and it has domino effect. Now, sometimes people blame religion for all this discrimination, inequality, and for unacknowledgement. However, it's not the reality as we have seen previously. So the next question is, are women marginalized by IFIs? Definitely when it comes to offering of leadership positions or managerial positions, it depends from jurisdiction to jurisdiction. Malaysia is a good example for us to see. And there are some countries in GCC as well, which are exemplary, like the UAE. And when it comes to getting services from financial institutions, again, in some jurisdictions, women have barriers to go to the financial institutions to obtain services, and therefore there are some solutions proposed, like having lady branches of the banks so that ladies could comfortably go there and get the services they require. So these are the practical solutions that we see for the issues. A bank by women for women. So this is a bank where the whole focus is for women who are poor, who are needy, who needs help. And the next example which I presented here is dedicated branches for ladies. So this is seen in GCC as well as in African countries and in Asian countries as well. The main reason why these types of dedicated branches for ladies is required is because, as I have previously mentioned, culture becomes the norm in societies, and therefore it is very difficult for them to go and get services from mixed gender branches without being criticized. So what are the recommendations? Number one is need to have mentorship programs to cultivate the next generation of women. We see very, I would say, limited mentorship programs when it comes to molding the next generation of girls to pursue their career in Islamic economics and finance. So we need to ensure that there are enough opportunity for young women to make sure that they know what to do in their career when they want to choose this path. So I believe that even universities and the financial institutions need to take leadership role in this by having proper customized mentorship programs for young women out there. Next is introduce quota system to increase women participation at decision-making level. Now you might wonder, why do we need to introduce quota system? The reason for this is because at the end of the day, if people don't realize things using their own conscience, then they need to be forced for a certain time to ensure that they become comfortable or they adopt it as a norm. And once it is adopted as a norm, then there's no need to have a quota system. So I believe that right now at the stage where we are, it is the stage where we have to force such things to the societies and make them experience it by forcing them and understand the results. Therefore, I believe that introducing quota system to increase women participation at decision-making level at IFIs would be the way forward to ensure that in future we wouldn't have to talk about these types of gender imbalance. Next is publish annually the success stories of women in the industry to motivate others. Now, the reason why we need to do this is because the young generation need to find the role models which they need to follow. If we don't display the success stories of women, whether in career or in business, then definitely there is no way people, especially the young girls, would understand that there is scope for them to pursue their career in this field. Now, normally we always say sky is the limit when you want to do something. But if sky is the limit, definitely we need to know those women who have strived hard to break the glass ceilings which they have when they want to reach to a certain position. And this is something we haven't done in a systematic way in Islamic finance, which we need to do. There are certain companies who have been publishing annually the names of women who succeeded in their career or in Islamic economics and Islamic finance. But merely displaying their names is not enough. What they have done, the impact they created, their story, their struggles need to be put out there to inspire other women. Next is acknowledge women participation to empower more women. So definitely, when we see a role model, when we know how they have done something, it inspires them, and finally we even know the path to follow. It's very simple. When we see what people have done through their action, definitely we know that we can do it. We get the confidence, and then we even try to do that. And especially the mistakes people do when they talk about them, again, it inspires and it gives actually people the courage to do what they want to do in life. Therefore, I believe that this acknowledgement could be in the form of, for example, giving a prize, or even having a ceremony to ensure that people who have done such tasks understand that they are being acknowledged, and those who are attending the ceremony knows that this is something they are capable of doing. So this balance needs to be brought to the industry. Next is OIC and multilateral organizations such as ISTB needs to introduce special scholarships awards for women. So obviously there are currently special awards and scholarships given for those who want to pursue their careers in Islamic economics and Islamic finance. However, again, since we want to inspire women and attract more women to the field, it would be very crucial and very important for these organizations to introduce gender-specific special scholarships or awards. This will definitely pave way for a lot of women to pursue their career, because at the end of the day, we all understand that without knowledge and competency, whether men or women, they won't be able to pursue their careers. So what is the way forward? It is said that the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now. So likewise, we already know that this has been going on for a while. However, today we need to take action, which is required. What I have put here is policymakers and all the stakeholders of Islamic finance and Islamic economics. Industry need to enact a strategy to develop women talent pool, and need to have a strategy to introduce products and services for financial empowerment of women. Now, this is something which is very easy to read. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Muniza, for delivering such a captivating topics on the Islamic economics and Islamic finance. We've been seeing the discussion on the role of women in Islamic finance and Islamic economics, and we start by discussing the misconception in women itself. About women in Islam in the term of the social, economics, moral, and personal. And we also discussing about the possibility of women to participate in the economics. But statistically wise, as presented by Dr. Muniza, that In the Islamic 500, we only found around 11% of women participated and listed in this list. And then we see the challenges about women in the Islamic finance and Islamic economics. We have a discrimination, inequality, and unacknowledgement. And we see the some recommendation and also solution that offered by Dr. Muniza, and a lot of question that might be arised in terms of this topic. So we're waiting for the question from you. Once again, participant, kindly write your question in the chat box. And probably all of the speaker wondered why the participant in our briefing on the meeting room is only 7, because the participant already in the others meeting room, so they are separated with our meeting room. So currently we have more than 170 participants joining in the participant meeting room, and then a lot of people participating in the online meeting room in Surakarta. And without any further delay, last but not least, let's meet the fourth speaker for the today plenary session, 11 Maret International Conference on Islamic Economics. We will have Professor Dr. Iza Mafruha. She is the lecturer of the Universitas 11 Maret Indonesia, and currently she has a position as the Vice Dean of Academic Affairs, Faculty of Economic and Business, Universitas 11 Maret. So for Professor Iza Mafruha, platform is yours.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Peace to all of us. Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, Salam Kebajikan. The Excellencies Vice President of Republik Indonesia, Kiai Haji Ma'ruf Amin. Your Excellencies, Professor Dr. M. Kabir Hasan from University of New Orleans, United States. Dr. Ashad Muniza from INSIF, Malaysia. Mr. Arif Rashid Hassan, Independent Commissioner Bank Syariah Indonesia. Dear audience, praise and gratitude to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, who always given heart and blessing for us. In this session, we will explore about gender inequality in Islamic perspective. It is series the role of women in Islamic histories. Okay. May I share my presentation? Okay. In the first, we will discuss about inequality gender, because inequality gender is one of SDGs, Sustainable Development Goal priority. Before SDGs, the goal names MDGs. Millennium Development Goals. There are 70 main goals in SDGs, namely no poverty, zero hunger, good health and well-being, quality education, gender equality, clean water and sanitation, affordable and clean energy, decent work and economic growth, and then industry, innovation and infrastructure, reduce inequality, sustainable cities and community, responsible consumption and production, climate action, life below water, life in land, and peace and justice strong institute, and then partnership to achieve the goal. Indonesia respond to the SDGs by converging the goal into national and regulation. This law and regulation derived from the SDGs when then implemented in the Sustainable Development Goal, named Nawacita, or 9-point development program, and the National Term Development Plan document, all of which are important documents in the direction of national development. Dear audience, one of SDGs priority is gender equality. If we talk about gender, it is mean gender does not focus on the physical differences between men and women or about sex, but rather on differences in role and behavior in social, political, economic, culture, and treatment aspect in society, both in formal and informal context. Gender equality gives women the right to equal access in various aspects, such as education, health, decent economic life, and representation in the political decision-making process. Gender mainstream is a cross-sectoral issue, meaning that the responsibility for its implementation is not only borne by the Women and Children Empowerment Office in the region, but also by both of central and local government. Gender mainstream will provide certainty in fulfillment of rights for men, women, children, people with disability, and other vulnerability groups by integrating them into development program planning. Gender inequality is usually measured through the Gender Inequality Index, GII, based on the three main dimensions, namely economy, social empowerment, and reproductive health. Economy indicated by the level of women worker participation. Social empowerment shown by the women educational attainment and political participation. And then reproductive health demonstrated by death ratio and family fertility rates. Among ASEAN countries, JEE and Indonesia is ranked 9 out of the 10 countries and is one of 3 member ASEAN countries with JEE score below the world average. They show that the equality of women and men in Indonesia is still lagging behind other ASEAN countries and ever below Malaysia, Singapore, and the country with highest JEE in ASEAN was Vietnam, and then Thailand and Philippines. Well, the lowest index has found in Cambodia. So Indonesia only one step from Cambodia. In Indonesia, almost all indicators are below the Asian average. They show that the Gender Inequality Index, GII, in Indonesia is still below the average index in ASEAN. The maternal mortality rate is even relatively high, which indicated a high risk of women reproductive health. But it is very interesting because Indonesia had a higher life expectancy in HDI, Human Development Index, compared to the ASEAN average in 2017. The next step was to map the concentration area of female labor force participation using the ArcGIS, Geographic Information System. The result showed that the ASEAN member country can be grouped into 2 groups. The first, country with a positive effect on women labor participation, namely Thailand, Vietnam, Laos, and Cambodia, and then country with a negative effect of women labor force participation, namely Philippines, Malaysia, Singapore, and Myanmar. The mapping result are shown by the figure below. It is the mapping result about the concentration area of female labor force participation using GIS, Geographic Information System. Broadly speaking, Islamic legal thought contains 3 distinct discourses of gender rights. There are premises on various forms of equality in between the sexes.
The third argues for equality in Islamic perspective are the first, which is the discourse of classical fiqh text. It is called traditional. The second, which developed in early years of 20th century and is accepted in modern legal code in Muslim countries called neo-traditionals. The third, which reformists emerged the last 2 decades and is still in the process of formation. And then, to strengthen the course in reforming the Islamic view of gender, we will discuss about 3 important female figures in development of gender equality in Islamic perspective. The 3 women have a very important role in the development of Islam. Okay, we will discuss about them. Number 1, Siti Hajar, the founder of the Mecca civilization. When Hajar and Ismail were left in the wilderness of Mecca, Ibrahim left his little family, them to Allah protection. When there was a shortage of water, Hajar ran from Safa, Marwa 7 times until she finally found a water source under Ismail's feet. Does the story end? No. This is something that has never been discussed in history. How Hajar lived with Ismail and the formation of city of the Mecca. Okay, when there is a water source, the bird will fly over the water source and become marker for the caravan passing through the desert. They came and there was straight, step by step, the area became a village and city that was used as a stopover city. It was then that Allah saw his promise to become Ibrahim and his family and make it city of mercy. Today, we know this place as Haramain, a magnificent holy city that is protected by Allah until the end of the world. Okay, Siti Hajar is first female, and then even Siti Hajar's struggle was immortalized by Allah as one of the pillars of Hajjah and Umrah ritual. It is named Sa'i, run from Safa to Marwa 7 times. Okay, now we will discuss about the second woman, Khadijah radhiyallahu anha. She is a business woman. Khadijah was born in merchant family, so that Khadijah already flow and blood in entrepreneur. His father, Khalid bin Asad, was a success businessman who has respected among the Quraysh. Khalid is also famous for being kind, fostering good relation with others, and being generous to the poor. Khadijah's case in doing business, there are 3 cases. Number 1, honesty and respect for customer. Second, always give charity. Giving charity will not reduce your worth, but will increase it. And the third, smart in looking for opportunity and potential market. So, Khadijah radhiyallahu anha is business woman. It is an economic gender equality. Okay, the third is Aisha. Aisha was a very smart woman and became the youngest wife of the Prophet of Allah. Aisha always think critically and analytically in addressing the problem of every event. She was memorized 2,210 hadiths of the Prophet, not only from the aspect of narration, but also understanding. It is amazing. It is amazing. Memorize 2,210 hadiths. How smart Aisha. In the century, there was distance between men and women, so that Aisha played the role in bridging problem for women in Islamic life. Aisha also played a direct role on politic field. One of them in Jamal War. This war happened because Aisha demanded justice for the murder of Uthman bin Affan. Uthman bin Affan is a former Khalifah before Ali bin Abi Thalib. Even though it later became a war that Aisha and Muslims deeply regretted. Aisha is one of the foundation stone that education for women is an important part for the development of the Ummah. One of the most important expression that al-mar'ati madrasatun ula. Mother is the first school for her generation. Ladies and gentlemen, audience, Hajar, Khadijah, and Aisha are important figures in the gender equality in the Islamic perspective. Other inspirational figures, we have three female. I will introducing them for you. Number one is Queen Zubaidah. Queen Zubaidah, who built a 13-kilometer dam in Madinah. 13 kilometers. She donating 5 tons of gold. 5 tons of gold. And then Rabi'ah al-Adawiyah will become a figure in the development of Sufis through her poetry and prayers. Furthermore, Lubna from Cordoba, who is the main guardian of library in Andalusia with more than 500,000 books. It is very amazing. Lubna from Cordoba. And there are many other women inspiring the new era with their activity, integrity, and role of the human being. Ladies and gentlemen, gender equality in Islamic perspective is clearly mentioned in the Al-Quran. In Al-Azab 35, Allah mentioned each man and woman by their deeds. This shows that Allah, in some basic respect, do not make distinction between man and woman. This Al-Ahzab, ayat 35. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Innal muslimina wal muslimat wal mu'minina wal mu'minat wal qanitina wal qanitat wasyadikina wasyadiqat wasyabirina wasyabirat wal khasiina wal khashiat wal mutasaddiqina wal mutasaddiqat wasyaimina wasyaimat hafidina furujahum وحافظة وذاكرين الله كثيرا والذين كرام أعد الله لهم مغفرة وأجر كريم. Men who surrender into Allah, and women who surrender, and men who believe, and women who believe, and men who obey, and women who obey, and men who speak the truth, and women who speak the truth, and men who preserve, and women who preserve, and men who are humble, and women who are humble, and men who gives alms, and women who give alms, and men who fast, and women who fast, and men who guard their modesty, and women who guard their modesty, and men who remember Allah much, and women who remember Allah much. Allah had prepared for them forgiveness and vast reward. Ladies and gentlemen, it is enough my presentation, and then maybe we can continue in FNQ forum. Okay, thank you. I'm Iza Mafruhah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Another gender issue presenting in this plenary session, Professor Iza Mafruha already delivered to us the gender equality issue that started by mentioning that gender equality is one of the 70 goals of the SDGs globally. And then she also mentioned about and discussing about the gender equality index, showing that Indonesia has the 9th rank out of the 10 Asian country. And then she also discussed about the role of women in the Islamic history. So ladies and gentlemen, and all of the participants, so let's proceed to the Q&A session. So we will have around 30 minutes discussion session. So if you have any question, if you have any issue that you need to confirm to any speakers, please feel free to send your question into the chat box, and we will discuss with the along with the 3 speakers remaining today. So thank you very much, Prof. Hassan, and also Dr. Muniza, and also Prof. Iza for staying with us. So let's proceeding to the question and answer session. So the first question, we already have the first question for Professor Hassan. In your presentation, you mentioning that the investor of SCG should not 100% rely to the SCG rating due to the inconsistency issue. Then what we should rely on, particularly as the first-timer investor? So Prof. Hassan, please.
Okay, this is a good question, but a difficult question to answer because even though I told you, but there are 6 different rating agencies, and you have to invest time and energy, and also the capability to understand, read through the ratings. So I would really depend on my investment advisor in this sense. And if you are really ESG motivated investor, you should also try to learn some of the techniques terms in order to be fully satisfied with your investment portfolio. So that will be my humble answer. So rely on your portfolio manager to guide you to the proper way. Now, all the empirical work that we do, we use actually MSCI ESG scoring, and it depends on which database you have access to. We got our data from Refinitiv, and Refinitiv, we collected the largest sample worldwide to do this analysis. So we have written 3 papers out of this database. But for retail investor like you and me, we don't have the technical skills to understand. So I would advise that you depend on your portfolio manager, and if you really are into it, you like to enjoy investing yourself, then you should increase your vocabulary or investment knowledge by reading and understanding.
Okay, thank you, Professor. But what if the early investor they don't have any access to them, like fund manager. So it's like solely like a personal investment. Because nowadays, I'm just trying to elaborating this the question for the participant, because for instance, in the cryptocurrency market, some of cryptocurrency has like they try to promoting like this is like a sustainability cryptocurrency, so it's built like a something like that. So for like a personal and faster who doesn't have those kind of information regarding the rating on those kind of issue, what should we do, or do you have any suggestion for the earlier investor?
You know, I myself is still trying to understand the whole spectrum of cryptocurrency. The technology is good, distributed ledger technology, but how it is being used is a question. So there are different classes of cryptocurrency. And if you are Islamic investor, there are also Sharia issues into this thing. And Professor Aisha, then we have a paper, and one of my students, we have checked the different aspect of Bitcoin, one of those cryptocurrency. I understand my students tell me there are some cryptocurrency are connected to some real activity. So when it's connected to real activity, so that's no longer a currency, because if you trade currency, it has to be equal for equal on the spot, you know. Those kind of conditions from the Sharia has to be applied. The volatility is another thing. In order to be currency, cryptocurrency is a generic term if I use. In order to be money, there are certain conditions. The qualities is fulfill, you know, stability, unit of address, have a constant value. If you look at the cryptocurrency market, even today, during the conversation 2-hour period, it is just volatile. And that is not a good sign for a currency to be whole. So what you're talking about, your question is, the young generation, they like technology, they like this, you know, buzzword, cryptocurrency, so something, you know, not, I mean, ghostly kind of thing, you know, unknown, the excitement. In that case, I would defer not, you know, not knowing this thing, getting into this thing just for the heck of doing this. I would advise that don't get into this thing, okay? Because you do not have enough knowledge into these things trying to get into. So that would be my advice.
Is it the paper that you mentioned is the paper about, if I'm not mistaken, I'm aware one paper between Professor Hassan and Dr. Muniza is working on like a precious metal-baked blockchain or cryptocurrency things.
That is one, but we do have another one.
Okay.
Bitcoin in Arab Block Quarterly, right, Aisha?
Okay.
Aisha can answer. Yeah.
Okay, so probably Dr. Aisha Muniza has another point to add.
Answer? Yeah, sure.
Yep.
We need to get the gender perspective, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's important to include gender aspect in that as well.
Yeah, because I think today's lineup of speakers also considering like the 50-50%, like 2 men and 2 female, and then 2 men talking another thing, another aspect of the Islamic economics and Islamic finance, and 2 of the female professor here talking about like a gender equality and like the woman role in the Islamic finance and Islamic economic itself. So the second question is goes to Dr. Aisha. It's coming from Mrs. Hawa. He asked about, I want to become a Sharia scholar in bank. How do I gain experience? So please, Dr. Aisha.
Thank you very much, Hawa, for the question. I think there is no, you know, shortcut or one way to do that. To gain experience, the first thing which is important is to understand how transactions work in the finance world. So I would say before going through the fatwas and the Sharia opinions, which has been published by different fatwa issuing bodies, the first thing that you should familiarize yourself should be about how the transactions work in the real world, and to understand what are the Sharia issues that are triggered in those financial transactions. Because at the end of the day, when you become a Sharia scholar sitting in a Sharia advisory board of the bank, there wouldn't be any black and white questions coming to you. It would be always in the gray side. Therefore, if you don't understand how the transaction works, then there is no Sharia opinion that you could issue for that. So what I believe is that that is the first thing that you have to do, learn how the transactions work and understand how, for example, if we say riba is triggered in a certain transaction, you need to understand how riba is triggered in that particular transaction. And if a person says gharar is there, how is gharar triggered? So that you need to familiarize with. And then finally, you need to understand how to apply the existing Sharia rules issued by different fatwa bodies. So another thing I think we could focus is on understanding how the Sharia rules are formulated, meaning that you need to read about AOFI standards, not only the fatwa issued, but the background of it as well. How did they arrive to that particular fatwa? So when you do those types of activities, your mind and you will acquire the skill of analyzing these types of circumstances, and it will open your eyes and brains to ensure that you really understand what you're talking about. So I think unlike the classical times today, when you sit in a Sharia board of a specific financial institution, the burden on your shoulder is much more bigger than just giving a mere fatwa on a ibadat matter, because every day is a new thing. The industry develops very fast. Therefore, there's no one you could ask the question and get an answer. You yourself will have to study it, go in depth, and sometimes you'll be the first one to even give a fatwa or a Sharia opinion or your verdict on a certain transaction. So I think that would answer the question. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I really hope that answered the question from Mrs. Hawa, because it's already comprehensive answer that the things that need to be underlined is there is no like instant move. It's needed. It takes a process and it takes years. So Prof. Hassan, we already have another question from for you. You mentioning about the Islamic finance challenges that we have. One of them is like a talent gap. So what do you think the best way to handle this kind of obstacle? Professor Hassan, please.
Okay, let me start with the example of the Indonesian government role in this thing. I really very much appreciate what the government taking this national goal of creating or developing the talent pool in the Islamic finance industry and developing the Islamic economy. Now, the first thing that you need to do really develop a curriculum, and the curriculum development is the most difficult part. You have to develop the literature. I'm not saying talking about writing a book or edited book or writing few journal article. I'm talking about combining Sharia and modus operandi of modern finance together into the same book, sort of interlinked, so that right now if you look at any Islamic, let's say bachelor's in Islamic banking, you see out of 10 classes, maybe 6 classes are conventional money economy banking and 4 classes are Sharia. But you need to integrate the Sharia principle within the course itself, and that is very much missing. And that requires a lot of investment time from the policymakers, from the government, and also from the industry. This industry is growing so rapidly, so big, but industry is not really paying much its dues to develop in this talent pool. Yes, they give sometimes scholarship or probably give few million ringgit to organize a conference, but that is the short-term thinking. You have to have a long-term thinking. You need a long-term capital invested by the banking sector, by the government, and of course, Indonesia can be a showcase for the rest of the world. Like you have already shown about the zakat management, and you are taking up the Waqf right now. And if you can develop this curriculum, that will be model for the rest of the world. So I very much, because Maruf Amin, he comes from the ulama tradition, and I request the Indonesian government to take up this historical responsibility at this stage, developing curriculum, developing materials, new books, the books that is written in a the modern textbook, not like I'm talking about you are trying to attract the mind and change the mind of younger people. They are not a master student. Right now, what you have a book, we have a number of edited book, me and Muniza, it's not really accessible to them. In order to accessible, need to really develop the textbook the way you have seen in the Western world. You know, the book reads to you. You know, that's a technique that you have to follow by itself. That's all for now.
Can I add something to it?
Sure, Dr.
For
Aisha,
example,
please.
in INSEF now, we have also introduced a subject called action-based learning, ABL. So in that, what we do is we blend the theoretical knowledge the students receive with the practical knowledge of the industry by bringing an industry project for the students to do within one semester. So that really works for the student because at the end of the day, before they finish the master's level course, they are being exposed to the industry and they know what is happening there. And it is like a real project in which they have to deliver within one semester all the deliverables which they agree. So it's just like a consultancy project for them. And we assign 2 mentors or 1 mentor from the faculty and the other mentor would be from the industry. So that is something I think we should consider in doing in other universities as well.
Very good point, Aisha. Very good point.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prof. Hassan and also Dr. Aisha. And then the next question is going to be answered by the Dr. Aisha. Apparently, a lot of people very curious about the woman role in the banking, Islamic finance, and also Islamic economics. So the question is coming from Mr. Saptian. He's coming from Universitas Sumatera Utara. So it's like a North Sumatra's universities joining with us today. He asked you about you who said earlier that one of the challenges that must be faced is inequity. So what should we do to eliminate the inequity, especially from all of us, the young generation, because until now it's still happening. So please, Dr. Aisha.
Thank you very much for the question. It's a very valid question. I think there are a lot of things we could do in order to eliminate the inequity we face. Number one is we need to voice out about our issues. That's very important. Sometimes we are not very much vocal about the issues we face. We just keep silent, right? So when we keep silent, nobody understands what we are feeling and nobody knows the issues. And finally, it is left unattended. So raising your voice is very, very, very important. Next, I would say is through your actions, you need to show that you are capable and qualified. Just because you are a woman, that doesn't mean you need to get anything. But your capacity and qualification will determine where you should be. So before you talk about your rights, you need to ensure that you possess the right qualification, right capacity, right skills, and right experience as well. After having that, then you can, through your action, you can prove yourself by showing that you are capable or you are more capable than the men you are competing with. So that would tell others that through your action, you are more capable and you are the right person to be put in that particular position. And number 3 is we need to definitely ensure that there are ladders put for women as well in terms of climbing up the career. Sometimes what happens is obviously because of our the natural way of living in the world, once we give birth, we need to take leave, and once we come back, the ladder is somewhere else, and we don't know how to locate the place where the ladder is anymore, and finally we become stagnant. I don't think that should be the way how it should be put in the workplace. There should be certain level of equitable principles or equitable workplace ethics or norms that should be applied to these type of situations, because it is not a random thing happening in the workplace. So I believe that once a female is empowered and she becomes in the top position, this is something we need to consider and we need to change. Next, I think is something very general. At the end of the day, we are talking about competition between 2 genders, and therefore the fittest will survive. And in order to be the fittest one who will survive, you need to ensure that emotionally you are independent and focused on what you do. And emotionally being independent, emotionally being capable is something you have to train yourself within yourself. It's not something who can come and, give to you. So that type of training is essential for us to succeed in life in any field, whether it is Islamic economics and finance or not. So I think in short, the first thing we need to do is voice ourselves out. Number two, we need to build capacity. Number three, we need to ensure that through our action, we prove ourselves to be the capable. And number four, once we reach to a position where we can make decisions, on behalf of all the ladies out there, we need to ensure that there are policies which are women friendly. So if we can do these things, definitely it'll work, I guess.
Yeah, I want to add one more thing to Aisha. We need to have an affirmative action. The reason I'm saying this, I know there are a lot of hidden talents among our sisters. First of all, they are afraid, or cultural element is there, they do not come forward. But if you make this a policy, affirmative action, that each bank in Sharia board must be, or let's say there are 9 board members, 2 has to be female, then you will find the sisters are coming out, they will show their assertiveness. So it has to be from the affirmative action standpoint. I think that was also one of the points Aisha mentioned in her presentation.
Quota system.
Yes.
Quota system.
Yes, the quota system, correct. So thank you very much. I'm pretty sure the answer of the Dr. Aisha and added by Professor Hassan already satisfied the question of Mrs. Tarigan. So apparently, Professor Isa has a problem in terms of the internet connection, but we have the question for her also. So let me read the question. And Professor Isa already read the question to me personally, so I will read out also the answer to the questioner. So the question for Professor Isa is about what is the role of Indonesian women in development of gender equality? And then we have also the question about what do you think if women become the target market of the fintech marketing, some even become the victim? Thank you. So I beg your pardon. So for Dr. Aisha and Prof. Hassan, let me read out the answer of Professor Isa that already sent to me. The role of Indonesian women since before the independence of Indonesia. Like Kartini, Rohana Kudus of up open Google right now, you will find the photo of Rohana Kudus in the public, in the politic of you will find the Cut Nyak Dien as a warrior from Aceh. In this time, we know of women has 39% in the parliament, in education, poverty reduction, and so on. And yes, women always as a target of because she must manage the finance of the family. So to save them from the illegal financial technology, we must give them a financial literation. The banking must provide a special product for women because of the result of my research shown that the women more responsible in loan than men. So yes, that was the question for the both. The answer of the both questions. So really hope that it's answered the question from, let me answer the people who asked, is from the Fauzia and Nurul Istiqamah. Thank you very much for the question and really wish that the answer from Professor Isa already satisfied your question.
I just want to add,
I think,
I want to add one thing. Aisha, you forgot to mention the soft power. Even though men, we think that we're ahead of you and you work behind us, but you women also have the soft power over men in a society, in any culture, whether it's in Indonesia, Malaysia, or in the United States. So sometimes God probably has given some balance. So part of the problem is that many cases when we say women empowerment doesn't always necessarily mean working outside the house. Part of the reason that we do not value the household production, raising a kid, taking care of the house, and some way this traditional value system, we never really give a value to this. It has a lot more value, but somewhere this, this womenism thing has sort of distorted what empowerment means. That doesn't mean that, you know, a sister or wife will not work. But if a sister or wife thinks that raising 5 kids, making them good citizenship, that's a contribution by itself. But very often we do not recognize that as a value. That is our problem. Let me give you a personal uh, uh, anecdote. You know, my wife is a physician. She is a full-time practicing physician in the United States, and we have 2 children. And she is the powerhouse behind this. I would say it's the foundation of the family. She does a responsible job. She raised 2 kids. Both of my children went to Harvard, so you cannot complain, with very little or no contribution from my side. So sometimes the life, you know, mechanism, it's not 50-50 formula. You know, you do 50, I do 50. It's just understanding and respect for each other. And that respect is the foundation of any relationship. I just want to bring some soft attributes that we never talk about when you talk about the empowerment. Sorry.
Yes, definitely. It's a very good point. Even the contribution of women to GDP needs to be revised, right?
Exactly.
So yes, that's totally a valid aspect. Thank you very much for that, Prof.
Yeah, thank you very much, Prof. Hassan, for delivering like a different point of view that probably we kind of miss out to discuss about in this discussion. And then also, okay, let me find another question, because some question already answered in your presentation and in your previous answer regarding the previous question. Oh, another question is coming from, I think it can be answered by either but for Professor Hassan and also Dr. Aisha. It's regarding the development of financial technology in the Islamic SIM, because apparently people's always connecting or relating that the Sharia compliance is kind of like really strict, and nowadays we come to the area where technology come into the economic activity. And in the recent studies, if I'm not mistaken, there is a study when stating that the financial technology industry in Malaysia is ranking 1 in the world, and then followed by Indonesia and some other countries. So in the SIM of the Islamic finance and Islamic economic itself, how we see the development of financial technology in terms of Islamic finance and Islamic technology. So please, Prof. Hassan and Dr. Aisha, probably this time, ladies first.
Yeah, I would say that because Aisha is the IT woman, Islamic finance
Oh
woman.
my God. Not really. What I want to say is technology has no religion and it is no magic. So as long as it is beneficial to the human being, we can use it in Islamic finance as well. And what we need to understand is that some people think that when we use technology, it resolves all the existing issues we face. However, the reality is we need to have a manual system first before we go to the technology or we use the technology. So having said that, yes, fintech has been utilized in Islamic finance and the process has been escalated because of the pandemic. And even in Islamic social finance today, we see that even technologies like AI, blockchain-based technology has been used to ensure that the stakeholders are confident with whatever the processes they implement in collection of money and disbursement of money. So I would say that, yes, definitely the future of Islamic finance industry also is linked with fintech and regtech, subtech, all insurtech, all those types of techs will come into the picture definitely. Prof. Kabir, over to you.
Well, you know, future is technology. I mean, change is very normal. We have to adapt to this. And I foresee in the next 10, 15 years, we will not see any brick and mortar banking institution. Everything will be done online. You can save on the operational cost. And also with technology, you can reach the bigger segment of the population, financial inclusion. And in that segment, I think fintech, Islamic finance is using very efficiently and it's improving. And because of this technology use, a lot of Sharia issues will also be resolved. you know, the transaction, how you maintain all the balance and so on. So the future is there, and the new generation now, if you are married and you have young kids, you will see the communication also has changed. You know, in the same house, if your kids are upstairs and during dinner time, you call them, hey, Omar, come in. He's not going to respond. But if you text him, he'll respond in 30 seconds. So what I'm saying, we're dealing with a new generation, and the millennials, they're tech savvy, and it will be easier to find even the better version of Islamic finance in the future. And I'm very hopeful it's going in the positive direction.
Thank you very much, Professor Kabin, and also Dr. Aisha. And I think it will be the last question. So the question is coming from Mr. Yusuf Indra. I'm wondering to know the role of technological adoption and uncertainty environment trends recently in promoting Islamic finance and reducing inequality as one of the main goals. What should we do and don't to get as much as potential benefit of technology in terms of institutional perspective and practical part as well? So please, Professor
Aisha,
Hassan.
you start. Women first.
Another ladies first, okay.
I think for each and every aspect, we have started using technology. For example, let's say when dealing with customers, today we don't require the physical presence, right? Through online, you can even open accounts, close accounts, transfer money, and do everything that you were doing previously physically using online. So meaning that even the commercial financial institutions, they have adopted technology to ensure that there is smooth functioning of what they have been given previously before pandemic through physical presence of customers. So this include even regulations have been changed to suit this. For example, eKYC, right? Previously, we don't have eKYC requirements. You have to, it's a very cumbersome process previously, but now it's quite easy. So because of these regulatory changes, even we are able to have an environment where we could use technology more than ever, right? And then when we talk about even dealing with two financial institutions, previously when you deal with short-term liquidity management instruments, which happens between two financial institutions, again, the disbursement and the processes becomes very manual. But nowadays, you don't need even a paper contract. Previously, you can understand how complicated the procedure is. You have to have witnesses, you have to ensure that this and that is there to fulfill the requirements, otherwise the court will not accept, blah, 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 right? But now things have changed. We have the enabling infrastructure required to facilitate such contracts. But I'm sorry to say in some countries, we are still struggling at that stage because we don't have the enabling infrastructure. For example, e-commerce acts, e-signature, validation, all these things are required to have a good environment to adopt fintech. If you have those enabling infrastructure, definitely you could go ahead. For example, let me illustrate the case of Maldives. We're not so advanced in having the enabling infrastructure. So when I was the Deputy Minister of Ministry of Islamic Affairs, that is before pandemic, I wanted to have an online zakat transfer system, which would be assisted by IDB to implement it. But the only hiccup we faced is not about the system, but about the enabling infrastructure, because we don't have e-channels to accept the money. So we don't have digital payment gateways enabled during that time. And because of that, our whole system failed. So what I'm trying to say here is that provided that the enabling infrastructure is there, definitely we can use the most of the technology we have. And how to use these technologies? You first need to understand your need. Based on your need, you can adopt any technology we want. For example, let's say recently me and Professor Kabir Hassan wrote a paper about zakat disbursements. So one of the ideas we have proposed in that paper is that why do we need to do multiple registration of zakat recipients? In fact, when we can give them a smart device and they take the smart device to their homes and using the data, of course, we'll get the permission from them to collect the data. But after collecting the data, from the data we receive, we know their household poverty level. We know whether they are hungry or not. So based on these data, we send the recipients the money, not the recipient coming to the Zakat organization multiple times per year to register themselves to get a small assistance which we are supposed to give as Muslims to them. So I believe that technology has no boundaries, except we need to ensure that it is within the limits prescribed by the religion. Otherwise, I think we can do wonders with technology, and we can reach the unreachable, and we can serve the underserved segments of the population using technology. Prof, over to you.
Yes.
No, you have said everything. I have very little to share. um, Technology really will be the future. And this pandemic has shown us, even though the whole world probably would crumble if we did not have this technology, even though two years I've been sitting, and actually if it were physically done, the logistical problem, bringing people all around the world, it also have reduced the cost too. But so yes, there is a lot of benefit and of using technology, and the cost is not that much. So the net benefit, or in terms of economic return, is very positive. But still, we are missing that human touch. But we'll get used to it. 2.5 years. At the beginning, I was really teaching my class online. I was not really liking it. But in 2 years down the line, my resistance has slowly declined against technology. But I'm an old timer. Probably Aisha's generation is different. I still like to go to classroom, energize, dance, sing, try to impact their mind, thought process, and so on. This is the part I cannot do online. But when it comes to business, this will be the new norm. Actually, it reduces the transaction cost. Because it reduces transaction cost, there is a law that the good always prevails and drives out the bad. So technology will reduce operational cost of doing business, will bring this market, the traditional definition market will also expand, because you can, sitting in your home, you can do a business in Maldives. Time doesn't matter. So all those things are very positive about technology. Now, the countries, like she mentioned, some of these countries have the infrastructure inability or not developed. That's why it is also hindering trade and commerce, like e-signature, she mentioned, electronic commerce. But fortunately, the top of 5 Muslim countries like Malaysia, Indonesia, Turkey, and some of the African countries are also technologically very savvy. Saudi Arabia, the GCC countries are. So these are our hope and example for the other Muslim countries to follow. So, and so it is coming. It is coming, and it will be in a better world because of technology adoption. But one thing I want to caution, I want to add, with technology adoption, it comes also with a risk, the cyber security risk. And this is a huge problem in the banking industry. Like today, Robinhood, there was a online platform of trading, and they lost their data. So, and these hackers, I was told, they are one step ahead of everyone else. They're smarter than who invented the system. So we have to also look at the cryptocurrency and the cybersecurity issue, and cybersecurity issue in this integrated technological world, because it becomes a one world. One country cannot do it alone. So there has to be an integrated, comprehensive understanding among the countries to contain the cybersecurity for the smooth functioning of the technology to perform and do its job.
Let me add something as well about the examples. So digital banking licenses are now given, right, all over the world. People are thinking about the process. If you talk about sukuk, now blockchain-based sukuks and platforms with technology, like for example, if you look at UAE, there is a platform called Bitak, where they are trying to come up with the end-to-end online platform for issuance of sukuk. So this shows that at least in future, sukuk issuance would be not so much complicated. It would be very easy, like issuing of a conventional bond. And then if you look at Islamic social finance, even having a zakat robot like Zaki, using AI is also something which is very good, right? Now we don't have to calculate it manually, the zakat amount, and also rice ATMs where zakat money, not zakat money, zakat in kind is dispersed through the machines is also a technology. And Prof has mentioned about Africa. Africa, obviously, the internet issues are there. However, they've come up with innovations which can be used in their jurisdiction. One example is M-Akiba bond. Using USSD code, using mobile phone, there people are able to subscribe to the bond. So same thing could be used in, I think in Indonesia also they use USSD code to subscribe to a bond. So, sorry, a sukuk. So these are the technologies that could be used in future. Technology doesn't mean always using internet or always going for the most sophisticated one. Based on our developments, we can use the appropriate type of technology, and that's the beauty of it, I would say. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Do you have anything to add on, Professor?
No, I think she has said it all. Technology is the future, so the more, the quicker we learn and try to adapt to the system, the better off will be. It's for true at an individual level, and also is true at the macro level. The reason I'm saying individual level, nowadays, my generation used to write on chalkboard, right? And the improvement was the chalkboard got better, but nowadays, the way you present your ideas, the PowerPoint, even the PowerPoint has become very modern, the PowerPoint, the way it dance, it really do magic. Some PowerPoint, you really can connect with your audience better. So at the individual level, and it will have an impact on the education sector as well too. You will see that this in-person class will become a premium. So you see this, we are moving toward a direction of the 70% will be online and 30%. And those who want to pay a premium tuition, they can only take in-person class. So it will be like in the Western world, the halal food, you pay a premium to get halal food. So that trend is going to continue, it seems to me. And what it also means that, of course, there is a danger that, is the economies of I'm talking about this, if the technology takes over, then the professor has to be a new generation professor. They have to be technological savvy. And we probably don't need that many professors. We probably don't need that many PhDs. So that will create another equilibrium in the market as well. But fortunately, I'll be out, and in Aisha's time, she has to think about it.
No, you'll be always there, inshallah.
Inshallah. So thank you very much. I think that would be the last question and discussion for today's plenary session on 2021 11 Maret International Conference on Islamic Economics, Islamic Finance, Gender Equality, and a Young Generation. Thank you very much once again to Professor Kabir Hassan, for Dr. Aisha Muniza, and then Professor Iza Mafruha, and last but not least, Mr. Hassan also. It's coming from the Independent Commissioner of Bank Syariah Indonesia. Thank you very much for joining with us. And for Professor Hassan, thank you for joining with us until late. I think it's already late in your place now. Once again, thank you very much. But before we end our session today, the committee just requested me to have the virtual photo session with the participant also, and also the speaker. So would you please to turn the camera on? And committee, are you ready to take the virtual photo session today? So I think they start to setting it up. Once again, thank you very much, Prof. Hassan and Dr. Aisha. Such a pleasure for me to have an opportunity learn from respectable scholars, and I used to learn a lot and become the motivation. And I also want to inform all of the participants that the committee already put the attendance list into the chat box. So please kindly sign your attendance list in the chat box that already provided by the committee. So we will have a photo session. Would you please to turn your camera on? And the committee, once you're ready, please let me know. Because after this plenary session, we will have the parallel session. And and all the participants. So you can see in your monitor the offline meeting held in the Lorraine Hotel Surakarta and the offline meeting. Okay, everybody is turn their camera on now, please. Thank you very much for joining with us. And do not forget, after this, as a reminder, you will have a parallel session that the presenter will be delivered the paper in front of the chair. Okay. In count of 3, maybe? Or have the committee already have? Okay. In count of 3, 1, 2, and 3. Thank you very much to all of the participants and also for the speakers. Once again, on behalf of the committee, I would like to say thank you very much for joining us and shed a light on the Islamic banking and Islamic finance on different perspective. And on behalf of the organizing committee, I would say stay safe, everyone. We're still in uncertainty era, so please be safe and be healthy. And I would like to hand over to the Master of Ceremony. I'm the one joining this sign out. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Duwante, and all speaker. Yes. And this is the end of this morning conference, but don't go anywhere because right after 45 minutes break, 47 papers for 17th University in Indonesia will be presented in the 13th parallel session and chaired by the academia and expert in their respective field. Finally, on behalf of the committee, I would like to sincerely apologize for all the unavoidable error, delays, and mistakes. We truly hope you have enjoyed in this event. I'm Rehan Aska and I'm signing out now. It was an honor to serve you all here. Good luck and goodbye. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Ilmu pengetahuan tanpa keluhuran budi adalah buta. Inti lambang Universitas 11 Maret divisualisasikan oleh sebuah wiku. Sosok orang pintar dengan praba di pusat wajahnya. Dalam sejarah agama dan pewayangan, praba digunakan oleh orang suci dan bijaksana, mengisyaratkan keluhuran budi dengan pancaran sinar keabadian ilmu pengetahuan yang menerangi untuk kesejahteraan manusia. Universitas 11 Maret berdiri pada tanggal 11 Maret 1976. Telah memposisikan diri menjadi salah satu universitas terkemuka di Indonesia. Memiliki cita-cita luhur untuk membangun negeri dengan terus mencetak prestasi dan inovasi yang bermanfaat bagi masyarakat. Universitas 11 Maret telah membangun visi dan rencana strategisnya untuk menjadi pusat pengembang ilmu pengetahuan, teknologi, dan seni yang unggul secara internasional berlandaskan nilai-nilai luhur budaya bangsa. berfokus pada peningkatan bidang khusus dan pada pengembangan kapasitas untuk memenuhi standar kelas dunia. UNS mengembangkan 3 pusat unggulan iptek. Ketiga pusat unggulan iptek tersebut adalah pusat unggulan dalam teknologi baterai lithium ion, fintech center dalam bidang teknologi keuangan, dan javanologi yang berfokus pada studi, pengembangan, dan pelestarian budaya Jawa. Universitas 11 Maret terletak di kota Surakarta atau lebih dikenal dengan Solo. Sebuah kota yang sangat nyaman untuk ditinggali, di mana budaya Jawa dan kehidupan modern berpadu. Kehidupan kota Solo yang menjunjung tinggi harmoni telah membentuk lulusannya sebagai calon pemimpin masa depan yang berkarakter tangguh, kreatif, ramah dan murah hati, tenang, juga lentur adaptif. Untuk mewujudkan visi pendidikan tinggi Indonesia, Kampus Merdeka, Merdeka Belajar, Universitas 11 Maret memiliki berbagai program yang tersebar ke dalam 11 fakultas, sekolah vokasi, dan pascasarjana. Berbagai layanan perpustakaan seperti penyediaan ribuan buku, akses ke berbagai jurnal internasional, dan pendampingan klinik pustaka dikembangkan dalam rangka mendukung pembelajaran mahasiswa, dosen, dan peneliti. Dengan suasana akademik yang nyaman, kampus yang hijau, serta didukung sistem informasi yang terintegrasi, Universitas 11 Maret menumbuhkan budaya akademik yang berperspektif global dan berorientasi 4.0. Kemitraan aktif dan kolaborasi yang kuat telah menjadi bagian tak terpisahkan dari universitas. Kemitraan internasional menciptakan banyak peluang untuk mobilitas mahasiswa dan staf, kolaborasi penelitian, dan pengabdian masyarakat. Selain menjadi pusat kepakaran, UNS juga menjadi rumah bagi mahasiswa dari 34 provinsi di Indonesia dan 33 negara di dunia. Menciptakan lingkungan beragam yang mengarah pada kekayaan budaya untuk dapat saling memahami. Ekspresi keberagaman menjadi hal yang dihargai setiap hari. Di dalam area kampus, UNS memiliki 6 tempat ibadah untuk 6 agama dan kepercayaan yang diakui pemerintah Indonesia. Hal ini menempatkan UNS sebagai satu-satunya universitas di Indonesia yang memiliki 6 tempat ibadah di satu wilayah. Inilah bukti bahwa UNS telah menjadi tempat yang aman bagi berbagai latar belakang dan inklusif untuk belajar bagi mahasiswa penyandang disabilitas. Kehidupan modern saat ini begitu kompleks daripada sebelumnya. Kita hidup dalam dunia yang berubah begitu cepat, sulit diprediksi, dan penuh ketidakpastian. Universitas berperan besar dalam menyiapkan lulusannya untuk pekerjaan yang belum dibuat, teknologi yang belum ditemukan, dan untuk mengatasi masalah yang belum diantisipasi sebelumnya. Penting untuk dipahami bahwa menjadi fleksibel adalah inti dari pertumbuhan seiring dengan perubahan abad ke-21. Inilah yang mendorong UNS mengubah tata kelolanya menjadi PT NBH. Dengan perubahan status ini, UNS akan memiliki ruang gerak yang optimal dalam meningkatkan kualitasnya, memiliki otonomi dan kemandirian untuk mengimplementasikan kebijakan 5 pilar akselerasi UNS menuju World Class University. Universitas 11 Maret bercita-cita luhur membangun negara. Indonesia.